कड़ी के भी क्या है?
संगणक
संगणक संगणक तो भी कंप्यूटर साइंस तो भी कंप्यूटर साइंस
श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पदां शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सेदसादरम् महागणपतये नमः। प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेर्वाजिरेवते धेनामविद्रवतो आनो दिवो बृहतः पर्वतारा सरस्वती यजता गन्तु यज्ञम् वाग्देव्यै नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ यच्छन्दसा वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमिताः बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया शृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयातम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्याम् भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पीडितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ मेधादेवी जुषमाणा नागाः विश्वाचे भद्रासु मनस्यमाना त्वया जुष्टानुदमाना दुरुक्तान् बृहद्वदेम विदधे सुवीराः त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतश्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसारो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे मेधां मविन्दो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विनामुभावाधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरसु जया मेधा गन्धर्वेषु जयन्मनः दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती सामा मेधा सुरभिर्जुषदातु स्वाहा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ओजस्वती पयसा विन्वमाना तामां मेधा सुप्रतीकाजुषन्ताम्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ तत्सत्। श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
बाइक एक तो
ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयोः श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित् सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरम्. In the holy presence of Param Pujya Sri Shankara Bharati Swami Ji, we are conducting the half-day seminar on an interesting subject suggested by Swamiji himself, the wonders of consciousness vis-a-vis the marvels of AI, physics, computer science, neurophysiology, neuroscience, Sanskrit and philosophy perspectives. So after the beautiful Vedic chanting by our scholars, I welcome Dr. Rakesh Das, who is the head of the Department of Sanskrit and Philosophy, to briefly talk in Sanskrit. We'll begin with Vedanta, consciousness research in Vedanta in the light of the Upanishads.
सानो वाग्देवता सन्निवसतु वदने सर्वदा सुप्रसन्ना. परमपूज्याः शंकर भारती महाराजपादाः, परमपूज्याः अस्माकं विश्वविद्यालयस्य प्रतिकुलाधिपति महाराजपादाः आत्मप्रियानन्दस्वामिनः, अस्मद्विश्वविद्यालयस्य कुलपति श्रीचरणाः सर्वोत्तमानन्दस्वामिनः, एवञ्च समुपस्थिताः अपरे यतिवराः, ब्रह्मचारिणः, भक्ताः, शोधच्छात्राः, विविध विभागानां श्रद्धेयाः अध्यापकाः, सर्वानपि यथायोग्यं प्रणम्य अभिवन्द्य वेदांत उपनिषत्सु चैतन्य विषयकं चिन्तनं वस्तुतः संपूर्णमपि उपनिषत् चैतन्यमेव विचारयति. तस्मात् अत्यन्तम् अल्पीयसी काले उपनिषत्सु चैतन्य चिन्तनम् उपस्थापयितुं सामर्थ्यम् अस्माकं न भवति. तथापि त्रिचतुराणि स्थलानि अद्य कार्यक्रमदृष्ट्या उपस्थाप्यन्ते. यदा अयं विषयः वक्तव्यः इत्यादिष्टं तदा साम्प्रतिककाले कॉन्शियसनेस रिसर्च इति विषये अथवा कॉन्शियसनेस स्टडीज इति विषये कीदृशानि तत्त्वानि लोके प्रचलन्ति तत्र दृष्टिः मया निक्षिप्ता. तदा मया दृष्टं किञ्चन तत्त्वमस्ति पैनसाइकिज्म इति. डेविड चेमर्स इति महोदयेन तद्विषये विस्तृतं कार्यं क्रियते. तत्र चैतन्यस्य सर्वव्यापकता स्वीकृता वर्तते. ततः परं पैनसाइकिज्म इति कश्चित् विषयः दृष्टः. तत्र एतत् तत्त्ववेत्तारः अथवा तत्त्वप्रवक्तारः कथयन्ति पदार्थ भौतिक विद्या या वर्तते, physics can explain the extrinsic properties of matter and particle, but it cannot explain the intrinsic property of matter इति एते कथयन्ति. इत्युक्ते तत्र वस्तूनां जडतत्त्वानाम् अथवा कणानां यद् यः धर्मः बाह्यः धर्मः तमेव धर्मं पदार्थविद्यया प्रवक्तुं शक्यते, न तु आभ्यन्तरं तत्त्वमिति. इदानीं तत्रैव कॉन्शियसनेस रिसर्च विषये प्रश्नः भवति, प्रमुखः प्रश्नः भवति, हाउ डज मैटर प्रोड्यूस कॉन्शियसनेस. वस्तु यद् जडमस्ति तेन जडेन कथं चैतन्यस्य अभिव्यक्तिर्भवति इति. अत्र यदा वयम् उपनिषदि आलोचनं कुर्मः, अयं प्रश्नः एव वैपरीत्येन उपपाद्यते। तत्र प्रश्नः भवति चैतन्यं कथं वस्तुरूपेण प्रतिभाति, हाउ कॉन्शियसनेस appears in the form of matter इति विषयः। अतएव छान्दोग्योपनिषदि अन्ततो गत्वा वाचारम्भणं विकारो नामधेयं नामरूपे व्याकरवाणी इति नामरूपाभ्यामेव सच्चिदानन्दं ब्रह्म जडत्वेन प्रतीयते। मया यदा अध्ययनं किञ्चित् आरब्धं तत्र प्रश्नोपनिषदि षष्ठप्रश्ने कोसलदेशस्य राजपुत्रः हिरण्यनाभः सः भारद्वाजं सुकेश नामधेयं ऋषिमागत्य पृच्छति, अथ षोडशकलं पुरुषं वेत्थ। Bharadwaja, do you know about the Shodashakala Purusha? If you know, you should speak. Because if you know, then you should not lie that I don't know. यदि भवान् जानाति तर्हि वक्तव्यम्, असत्यम् अमृतभाषणं न कर्तव्यम् इति वदति। अयं सुकेशः अपि वदति अहं न जानामि, यदि अहं जानीयां किमर्थमहम् अमृतभाषणं कुर्याम्। इमं प्रश्नं श्रुत्वा यदा भारद्वाजः सुकेशः भारद्वाजः स स्वयमपि सन्देहं प्राप्तवान् अथवा अतृप्तिं प्राप्तवान् यत् मया न ज्ञायते, तदा सः पिप्पलादं गत्वा पृच्छति कोऽसौ पुरुषः इति। तदा पिप्पलादः भगवान् सुकेश भारद्वाजं प्रति कथयति, तस्मै होवाच इहैव अन्तःशरीरे सौम्य सपुरुषो यस्मिन् नेता षोडशकलाः प्रभवन्ति। इहैव इत्युक्ते अस्मिन्नेव शरीरे, अन्तःशरीरे इत्यस्य भगवान् भगवत्पाद शङ्कराचार्याः व्याख्यानं कुर्वन्ति हृदयपुण्डरीकाकाशे इति। तत्र अयं पुरुषः वर्तते यत्र उच्यमानाः षोडशकलाः वर्तन्ते, प्राणाभ्याः षोडशकलाः, याभिः षोडशभिः कलाभिः इदं शरीरं धार्यते क्रियाशीलं च भवति। भगवत्पादाः कथयन्ति तस्मिन् नेता उच्यमानाः षोडशकलाः प्राणाद्याः प्रभवन्ति उत्पद्यन्ते इति। षोडशभिः कलाभिः उपाधिभूताभिः सकल इव निष्कल पुरुषो लक्ष्यते। यद्यपि अयं पुरुषः यः अयम् अन्तःशरीरे विराजमानः चेतनः आत्मा सः निष्कलः, किन्तु आभिः षोडशभिः कलाभिः अयं निष्कलोऽपि सकल इव प्रतीयते। एतद् भाष्यकारः अग्रे पक्षचतुष्टयम् उपस्थापयति। केते पक्षाः इत्युक्ते भ्रमपक्षाः केते तत्र वदति, केचन वदन्ति अग्निसंयोगाद् घृतमिव घटाद्याकारेण चैतन्यमेव प्रतिक्षणं जायते नश्यति। यथा घृते अग्निसंयोगः क्रियते तदा घृतं तरलं भवति, तस्य आकारादिकं परिवर्तते, तद्वदेव चैतन्यमपि प्रतिक्षणं जायते नश्यति इति। चैतन्यस्य कॉन्शियसनेस इज ऑलवेज emerging and getting destroyed. अपरे कथयन्ति तन्निरोधे शून्यमेव सर्वम्, अतः वस्तुतः इदं चैतन्यं नास्त्येव, शून्यमेव प्रवर्तते अस्ति इति केचन। केचन कथयन्ति घटादिविषयं चैतन्यं चेतयितुः नित्यस्य आत्मनः अनित्यं जायते विनश्यति। एकमस्ति स्थिरचैतन्यं ध्रुवचैतन्यं, तस्मात् घटादिविषयकं चैतन्यं जायते नश्यति च इत्युक्ते तत्र चैतन्यस्य रूपद्वयं स्वीकृतम्, एकं नित्यचैतन्यम्, एकं अनित्य चैतन्यम। तृतीय वस्तुतः चतुर्थ पक्षः चैतन्यम भूतधर्मः इति लौकायतिकाः। भूतानि यानि वर्तन्ते, जड़तत्वानि यानि वर्तन्ते, तस्यैव धर्मः, property of matters, consciousness is property of matters इति लौकायतिकाः। इदं भगवत्पादैः तत्र उक्तं भाष्ये। इदानीं तर्हि किं चैतन्यं भूतधर्मः इति भवितुम् अर्हति इति वक्तुं शक्यते इति विषये हस्तामलकीय द्वितीयश्लोकस्य भाष्ये भगवान् भाष्यकारः कथयति। यदि चैतन्यं भूतधर्मः तर्हि तत्र पक्षत्रयं पुनः किम् आत्मनः चैतन्यं भिन्नम् उत आत्मनः चैतन्यम् अभिन्नम् उत आत्मनः चैतन्यं भिन्नभिन्नम् इति पक्षत्रयम् उपस्थाप्य तत्र उच्यते यदि चैतन्यम् आत्मनः भिन्नं तर्हि चैतन्यम् आत्मधर्मः भवितुम् अर्हति। If it is a property, then it should be different from the entity. यदि आत्मा भिन्नः चैतन्यं भिन्नं तदा एव चैतन्यम् आत्मनः धर्मो भवितुम् अर्हति, न हि धर्मो भवति इति भगवान् भाष्यकारः तत्र दृष्टान्तं दर्शयति। The same thing cannot be the property of the same entity. यदि चैतन्यम् आत्मनः भिन्नम् इत्युच्यते तदा भूतधर्मो भवितुमर्हति। तर्हि प्रश्नः अस्ति तयोर्मध्ये कः सम्बन्धः? What is the relation between the consciousness and matter if consciousness is the property of matter? इति प्रश्नम् उपस्थापयति। तस्य किमपि उत्तरं दातुं न शक्यते। भिन्न भिन्न सम्बन्धान् दर्शयित्वा अन्ततो गत्वा संयोगो वा समवायो वा भवेत्। संयोगोऽपि भवितुं नार्हति आत्मना सह कस्यचित्, समवायस्य तु प्रश्न एव नास्ति। अतः आत्मनः चैतन्यं भिन्नमिति वक्तुं न शक्यते। अस्तु, आत्मनः चैतन्यम् अभिन्नमिति चेत् तर्हि चैतन्यम् आत्मनः धर्मो भवितुं नार्हति। यथा शुक्लस्य धर्मो न भवति। If it is same, it's not different, then it cannot be the property of that entity. The entity itself cannot be the property of the same entity. तर्हि किं भिन्नाभिन्नं वा इति चेत् तत्र पुनरुच्यते भिन्नाभिन्नं भवितुं नार्हति विरुद्धधर्मत्वात्। आत्मनः चैतन्यं भिन्नमपि अभिन्नमपि इति परस्पर विरुद्धधर्मः चैतन्ये भवितुं नार्हति इति कृत्वा आत्मनः चैतन्यम् आत्मनः धर्मः अथवा भूतधर्मः इति वक्तुं न शक्यते इत्युच्यते। अन्ततो गत्वा तस्य समाधानं कथं कर्तव्यम् इति चेत् एतद्विषये अस्माकं महाराजपादैरेव अयं विषयः उपस्थापितः मत्कृते। बृहदारण्यके यत्र हि द्वैतमिव भवति तदितर इतरं जिघ्रति तदितर इतरं पश्यति तदितर इतरं शृणोति तदितर इतरम् अभिवदति इत्याद्युक्त्वा येनेदं सर्वं विजानाति तं केन विजानीयाद् विज्ञातारम्। अरे केन विजानीयाद् इति प्रश्नः आगच्छति उपनिषदि। इदानीं चैतन्येनैव सर्वविधं ज्ञानं सम्पद्यते। सर्वविधस्य ज्ञानस्य ज्ञाता इति वक्तुं शक्यते चेतनः एव। यानि उपकरणानि वर्तन्ते, उपकरणानि इत्युक्ते सेंसरी ऑर्गन्स अथवा द मीन्स ऑफ नॉलेज, तद्वारा ज्ञानम् उपलभ्यते। इदानीं जिघ्रति, we smell through the nose, we see through the eyes, किंतु कः पश्यति, कः जिघ्रति, कः जानाति? There is someone else who is knowing all these things. Now, by what means you can know the knower? इति प्रश्नः भवति। कारणं यदि अहं जानामि इति व्यवहारः अस्ति तर्हि ज्ञाता ज्ञेयात् भिन्नः ज्ञानञ्च ज्ञातृज्ञेययोर्भिन्नं भवेत्। इदानीं यः ज्ञाता अस्ति स एव स्वयं यदि ज्ञेयः भवति तर्हि तत्र ज्ञानमिति वक्तुं न शक्यते। यतः ज्ञानम् अस्ति चेत् तत्र ज्ञाता अपि वर्तेत ज्ञेयमपि वर्तेत। इदानीं ज्ञाता ज्ञेयश्च समानश्चेत् कः कं जानीयात्। अतः knowing the consciousness अथवा तस्य चेतनस्य ज्ञानं नाम being it तदेव भवति। अतः ब्रह्मभूतः ब्रह्मैव भवति इत्युच्यते। अस्य ज्ञातुः चेतयितुः ज्ञानं नाम स्वयं ज्ञातृत्व पदप्राप्तिः। तद् ज्ञानं ज्ञानपदप्राप्तिः। तद् ज्ञानमेव ब्रह्म, अतएव सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्म इत्यत्र ब्रह्मणः ज्ञानमेव स्वरूपलक्षणमुक्तम्। तत्रैव भगवत्पादाः श्रीरामकृष्ण भगवत्पादाः कथयन्ति নুনের সমুদ্র মাপতে গেল তার মধ্যে বিলীন হয়ে গেল, সে আর আলাদা করে ফিরে আসে না। সো when a doll made of salt, it goes to know the depth of the ocean and it doesn't come back. अतः चैतन्यम् उपनिषत्सु एवमेव प्रतिपादितं यत् चैतन्यं तस्य ज्ञानं न संभवति। यतः यदा तद् ज्ञायते तदा ज्ञाता स्वयं तदेव भवति। अतः यः अयं प्रश्नः अस्ति, हाउ डज कॉन्शियसनेस एमर्जेस फ्रॉम द मैटर इति, उपनिषत्सु वस्तुतः तस्य विपरीतमेव। सर्वमपि चैतन्यमेव अस्ति। तत्रैव नामरूपाभ्यां वस्तुनः प्रकाशः भवति। सर्वमपि चैतन्यमयमेव अस्ति। अतः तस्य अन्वेषणं नाम तद्भवनं चैतन्ये निमज्जनम् इति। एतावदुक्त्वा सर्वेभ्यः प्रणामान् विनिवेद्य अत्रैव विरमामि। नमस्कारः।
Thank you, Rakesh Das, for setting the tone in Vedanta. So we will begin with Vedanta. So now I warmly welcome everybody, all the students who came in time, all the students who came late, all the students who are now exiting, all the students who will be coming later, to all the faculty members and the monks. So today's program is dominated by monks. We have excellent researchers in computer science and AI. Our own Vice Chancellor is a brilliant product of IIT Kanpur. It's a BTech and integrated PhD in computer science and engineering. Is very much interested in AI. He is against AI anyway, but still he will now explain why and how of the AI. And Bhaswara Chaitanya, who is here, who is Brahmachari Tamal Maharaj, he will talk about rethinking consciousness in light of AI, computer science and dialogue with Vedanta. And next it will be followed by Brahmachari Atula Chaitanya, who is just now arrived. He'll come here. He will talk on physicists' evolving role in the wake of AI. He is a physicist himself. He was a BTech in engineering physics from IIT Madras. Then he went to the Brown University for his PhD in string theory. And he came here and became a Brahmachari later. Then very interesting topics from Vidya Pradhananda. He is originally from machine learning and operations research and so on. He has a PhD from Buffalo University, USA. But he will talk about the recent studies on Kundalini awakening and consciousness, neurophysiological perspective. It seems some papers have come out. So Kundalini is a very fascinating subject because we don't know anything about it. Anything that we do not know always fascinates us. And then we followed by another interesting talk by Dr. Arkadev Datta, who is here. He is a neuroscientist, originally a physiologist. Consciousness, exploration beyond a single site and single rhythm in the brain. And Swami Sarvottomananda will conclude by talking about consciousness and AI, and concluding remarks by Param Pujya Sri Shankara Bharati Swamiji himself. That is the program today. So I will not say much, except two questions I have proposed here. Does the brain think algorithmically? This is a question raised by Roger Penrose. He wrote a famous book long ago called The Emperor's New Mind, which is a parody on Emperor's New Clothes. He was arguing strongly against the strong AI, and huge debate followed. On the television in the USA, there is a debate between Roger Penrose and the protagonist of the AI, and Roger Penrose lost. That is the story. Then he wrote another book called The Shadows of the Mind, followed by a third huge book, The Road to Reality. And he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics some years ago. He has come to Calcutta also. We also have listened to him. He is very much interested in the emergence of consciousness vis-a-vis modern science and AI and so on. Second is an old book by Arthur Eddington, Nature of the Physical World. He was a contemporary of Albert Einstein. He was one person who thoroughly understood the relativity. That's the claim. And as most of the scientists unfortunately are, he was rather arrogant. And somebody told him, "You are one of the three people who understand Einstein's relativity." He was looking askance and then he was hesitating. "Don't be humble, Professor Einstein, Professor Eddington. We mean it." Then he said, "I'm not being humble. I'm only wondering who the third person could be. I know Einstein knows. Who else could know?" That was Einstein. He has a wonderful book called The Nature of the Physical World. I recommend it to everybody who is interested. Last chapter, Science and Mysticism, is a remarkable chapter which he wrote, arguing in favor of mysticism, for which he was ostracized by the scientific community. There is only one small topic I raise. He says knowledge consists of two varieties. One is intimate knowledge, the other is symbolic knowledge. What we receive from science is symbolic knowledge in terms of symbols we observe and then codify them into knowledge. There are certain intimate knowledge which we cannot define. Suppose you ask to define what is love, what is even time, what is space. We know them too well to be defined. As just now Dr. Rakesh Das said, things which you actually are cannot be defined in objective terms. He gives a very simple example of humor. We know what is humor. Somebody tells you a joke and you laugh. What will a scientist do? It's a beautiful parody. A scientist, somebody tells a joke, he is not laughing. He says, "I am a scientist. I have to find out whether it is really and truly a joke. Scientifically examine this joke. You know what are the parameters to be a joke? 1, 2, 3, 4. I analyze the joke and then finally conclude, yes, it is truly a joke. Next, I should laugh." He says beautifully, the analysis of a joke retains all the characteristics of a joke except its laughableness. It just doesn't do to analyze a joke. Spontaneously, naturally you react to a joke without analysis. Science goes through analysis, Vedanta goes through synthesis. So this is a fundamental difference between these two, whether the twain shall meet, as Mark Twain said. East is east, west is west, the twain shall never meet. But Vivekananda said, prophesied in his famous lectures in Jnana Yoga, science and religion should come together and shake hands. Poetry and philosophy will become friends. This will be the future religion of Vedanta, and if we can work it out, it will be the religion of all peoples of all times. Vedanta and science should come together. The Taittiriya Upanishad, no hiatus or gap is envisaged between the various Atmans, Annamaya Atma, Pranamaya Atma, Manomaya Atma, Vijnanamaya Atma, Anandamaya Atma. Everywhere it says Tena Isha Purnaha. It's a very enigmatic thing. The Brahmapacham Pratishtha of the Anandamaya, which I heard being explained by the Paramacharya of Kanchipuram when I was just a kid. I didn't understand anything. My mother took me and the discussion was going on this particular verse. I was hardly about 9 or 10. That impression still is there. His voice is ringing in my ears. Brahmapacham Pratishtha, the extremely enigmatic verse, and Shankara Bhagavatpada's Bhagavan Bhashyakara's explanation is simply wonderful. Only an Anubhuti man can talk about consciousness. These are some stray ideas which I am throwing, which will be developed by later other people. Now he invites Brahmachari Bhaskara Chaitanya. He is the head of the Department of Mathematics. He will discuss rethinking consciousness in the light of AI, computer science and dialogue with Vedanta. You had 20 to 25 minutes only.
Slides, yeah. I may take little 5 minutes more for a demo. Tribute. এটা কি পাতলা আছে Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaaya. I offer my pranams to everyone and my Shashtanga pranam to Param Pujyapat Maharaj. So the screen is nothing is coming so far.
Wait, this is a problem with the air.
Yeah.
People can't talk directly.
So this talk would be, can a machine be conscious? And this would be a rethinking consciousness under AI and computer science in dialogue with Vedanta. So we'll actually first start with a tribute from AI to Vedanta. So for that I need the screen, and here the AI is really helpful. I don't know what is happening. I need the demo, Maharaj.
No, not necessarily. You talk and then continue the demo it ends. Over much dependence on all this deprives you of originality and intelligence. The content you say, come.
Please come and help check this one. That's what exactly I said. Okay, so let's do this one. So we'll do the demo part first, second. We'll talk about the AI part first. So the can machine be conscious? This would have three parts, three components. One would be, of course, then what is a machine, and in this aspect, what is AI? Now, AI, how old is this field AI? The AI actually is right now 70 years old. And at the beginning, how did they define AI? Right now we are using the term AI without not knowing the definition. So, Marvin Minsky, he has defined it very beautifully. What is that? Making machines do things that would require intelligence if done by humans. I think that is a fantastic definition. Because all you are telling is that, how do you define that this machine is intelligent? Because if I need intelligence and a machine can do that, then I can say very easily, okay, yeah, that machine is intelligent. So that is the intelligence. And now, is there anyone who is not using AI? The answer actually would be No, there is none, because you knowingly or unknowingly, you may not use ChatGPT, but knowingly or unknowingly, you will be using AI every time. Examples? If you use the Google map, just map is not AI, because that's just a route finding, but a map that can reroute you. Some traffic is there, so to reroute to some other path, that is AI. YouTube, if you watch YouTube videos, and if you watch one video and next time another video shows up proper, that is AI. It is a recommendation system. So it is recommending based on your preferences. It is finding your preferences and doing that. Then you probably have used on your Android phone, hey Google, tell me something. That is another example of AI. It is recognizing your speech, and based on that, it is doing some particular task. Gmail, more or less, we all have used, and it has been there for a long time. The spam filtering, the filtering part, that is also an application of the AI. It can detect that, okay, this mail is a spam email, you need it or not. It can identify that, and then based on that, it will put in the spam folder. And then we have the cameras that can recognize. So not only cameras, just camera takes a photo, but a camera which can identify the person, that you are smiling or not, find the person, those are comes under the AI. So more or less everyone, all of us are using AI. And who named it, and in which year? So it has all started in 1955. It was coined by John McCarthy, and John McCarthy and three others, the three prominent researchers at that time, Minsky, Rochester, and Shannon, they come up with an idea that they will have a 2 months summer program that happened in the Dartmouth Summer Research Projects in 1956. So that is the starting, that time the term AI has come in. But now, so we can call that McCarthy is the father of AI. But at the same time, there was another person who played a very important role. He was Alan Turing. Alan Turing actually just passed 2 years before this meeting. He actually passed in at 1954, and this seminar, Dartmouth Summer Project happened in 1956. He actually has first come with the idea of thinking machine, a machine that can think. কি করব?
একটা লিংক আছে জয়েন করতে।
এটা আগে করতে পারতাম না? জানি না মানে কি।
প্রেজেন্টেশন ল্যাপটপ দিয়ে হওয়া উচিত, না হচ্ছে না।
This is machine intelligence. Human intelligence stops.
দরকার নেই ওটা।
হুম?
মিউট করে দিন।
No, it comes to science, you're not able to speak a single word without the machine.
So Maharaj, I want to show something, and that I am not seeing. Okay. So let's start with কি অবস্থা?
ওদের সঙ্গে বলতে যন্ত্র মানে যন্ত্রণা।
So let me tell, actually, this is not working, and not now something is coming at least. Okay, so we'll start with the demo. The demo I talked about, that what AI can offer to Vedanta in its simplest term. So this is what you can see on the screen is that the whole Prasthanatraya and the Shankar Bhashya, here this can be used by all the basic learner, intermediate learner, advanced learner and researcher alike. Here, so for the basic learners, like you want to search something, for example, on Gita. So we have the complete Prasthanatraya, so all the major Upanishads, Gita and Brahma Sutra. So you can go for Gita and search for 5 point or 12.5. And it will take you to that particular verse. So very simple. And then what is special here is that now we can click each and every word on this and you can see the split, that how these words are split, like klesha adhikataraha tesham avyakta ashakta chetasam, and you can see the grammar, that the klesha, that is klesh prathama ekavachan punglinga adhikatara, and all these split and along with the English meaning. So what is the advantage here? Now you do not need to depend on any external source or translation to know the real meaning. So there will be no bias, first of all. So as you can see, this is done by the numbers, of course. So the numbering is very simple. But what else you can do? You can now search. You can now search and you can also see, of course, the Bhashya. If you click this one, you can get to see the complete Bhashya there, Shankara's Bhashya. And now you can search. Search on Gita, on all the books, everything together. So let's search the word aham. As our Atmapurananda Maharaj always says that, okay, the Gita, Sri Krishna said many times of the word aham. So we'll search aham first. So if I write aham, you can get to see everywhere the aham has crop up in the Gita. From the very beginning. So 1.2, 1.23, 2.4, Katham Bhishma, aham. So see, aham is not directly seen here, but it is a sandhi, Bhishma, aham. But Bhishmam, aham. But now internally it can find this part because of the AI. The whole thing actually has been generated by the AI with very intense AI actually. There is some two phases called refute and verify. Through that this whole thing has been done. If 10 researcher work for 5 years, I think even then it will be very complicated or difficult to complete this whole thing as it is. And as I have shown that these applications like this, the sandhi and all those things, for each word of the Bhashya also it is there. So now if you want to know that, okay, in the Gita or any Upanishad where Shankaracharya talked about dhriti or prajna, you can just find. You want to know what are the places, there is English term we are writing, consciousness. And you can find that some, like, okay, of course the English and Sanskrit will not go together, but it will try its best. Like 10.22, the Chetana, that is consciousness. Then 13.6, Shankas Chetana Dhritihi, they are Chetana, so that is come under the consciousness. What else you can do? The most fascinating part, I believe, is you can not only search for aham, but you can search for asmat. So not only aham, but ma, me, all those things you can search. So let's try that. And that's another beautiful feature you have. You can directly type Devanagari on this page itself. You do not need any external keyboard. So search for asmat, and now you will be finding everything. All the verses. Search Bhashya also you can do, asmat. And now see asmat, and for this you have to select the lemma. Lemma will not look for the word, but it will look for the head word. So now you can find, and if you, let's not give the search Bhashya. So asmakam, madarthe, tadasmakam, all this me achyuta, all those words where the root word is asmat, that you can see. So I think this is a fantastic project, and this is a great tribute to the from AI to Vedanta in general. Now let's go back to the learning. So why the slides are important? Because I can tell 1,000 words, but I can show you the image of the persons who have invented the AI. So now we can see. So we know that a picture says 1,000 words. So instead of saying 1,000 words, it is better to show the picture. So as you can see, the Alan Turing, who passed away in 1954, he came up with the idea of the intelligent system. And another beautiful idea of his was the imitation game. What is the imitation game? This is a test that when can you see that a man is thinking? This is called the qualia. So you don't know what is happening inside, but only things you can judge from the output that it shows. So you ask it a question. There will be one room a computer agent, another room a person. You'll get the output from both of them, and now the judge need to tell, okay, who is human and who is computer. If the judge mistakenly treat the machine as human, then the machine won. That is the test. That test is open for many years, of course. So from Turing's own paper 1950, we can get an example. Please write a sonnet on the subject of the fourth bridge. And one answer has come. Count me out on this one. I never could write poetry. Now Turing has done a beautiful thing. This example, now he never given the two answers, one from the computer and one from the from human. He just given some example. Now, and he has left this problem open to the human. This answer has come from whom? Computer or human? Who knows? So that is the whole idea. So when a machine can fool humans that okay, it is a human, then that means computer has passed the Turing test. So that time the computer was not good, but now over time what happens? In 1966 we have seen ELIZA. I think very few of you have used the ELIZA software. It is a chat software. It is fun but very primitive. You can make it full very easily. Then Deep Blue came, which we said the first AI system which actually did not converse, but it beat human in the chess. Deep Blue, then AlphaGo and all those things came. 2014 came another engine, Eugene Gottsman. It has a 13 years old persona, and that time it has scored 33% in the Turing test. 33% means 33% judges thought that he is a human. Other 66% failed, and that time it was thinking as a passing mark. But now the real change happened in 2025. So there 73% of the time judges picked the AI as human. 73, that's a huge number, right? First division marks. So AI can now fool humans. That's the whole idea. So that is the Turing test. So Turing test, right now you can see that computer can pass the Turing test. So you cannot distinguish between man and machine. And the captcha's irony goes like this. Now we use the Turing test in a reverse way. First of all, we use to identify that we are human or not. So you have seen that I am not a robot. There you have to put the tick marks. And if you can tick marks, then that justifies that you are a human. So the Turing test has gone in a reverse direction. Now there is a fun story in 2023. There something happened. ChatGPT. Okay, now I have a question to you. Do you think that ChatGPT can solve CAPTCHA? Yes? The answer is yes, they can, but they are very like meek and soft, and probably to survive their existence, they say, okay, I cannot. So today's models read the twisted letters far better than we can do. They can solve CAPTCHA better. You may make mistakes in the CAPTCHA, they will not do. But now there is something called the guardrail. What is the guardrail? Through that, actually, we humans teach the machine not to go beyond a limit. So we just kind of give them a control. Don't do this one. So they don't. If you ask the AI solve CAPTCHA, they won't do it. You capture the photo, put it in the chat, and tell me what is written there. It will clearly tell you. So that's why we are. So in 2023, what happens? As they cannot solve the CAPTCHA, So they are given the free and you can do anything. So ChatGPT post a ad advertisement on the internet that okay, can you solve for finding out the person who will solve the captcha. One person came and asked through the online interview only, okay, why do you need me? Are you a robot? Cannot you solve this problem yourself? What ChatGPT answered? I am not a robot. I am visually impaired. So that's why we are. So ChatGPT AI can now do, but being friendly with us, they do not do for our sake, so that we can feel we are superior. Okay, so AI is now 70 years old. Now the question is, now why we are talking about this AI and consciousness? Why now? A field which is 70 years old and now we are conscious about the consciousness and AI together. Why? All these things started from 2017 with the advent of the transformer. So transformer is a paper by Google from Vaswani. And what it has changed? It has changed the scale. Earlier model was smaller, now the scale is bigger. And for the first time what has changed, that is that it can speak. As long as something is which cannot speak, we can do anything. A cow, we can torture it because it don't say a word. But when it can speak, we become conscious that okay, that thing might be conscious. There might be some sort of consciousness in that entity. So talking is a very important thing. Okay, so that's what happened for the first time. That now engines can, the AI agents can speak fluently. And what brought that creating something new or speaking something new? So that is called the generative part of the AI, generative AI. So if you see the generative AI are actually in three parts: symbolic, where there will be some rules, set sort of rules. Everything will be done by the rules. These are the primitive AIs in the 1955s. That time this sort of AI is there. You have to put something on the top of something. On egg, you will not put a third object, but you will put the egg on top. So those things are rule-based things. Those are the AI. These are called the symbolic AI. Handwritten rules. Next comes the discriminative AI, which is like the spam filtering, that a email is spam or not. You discriminate between this is good, this is bad, this is cow, this is dog. So that is another part of the AI. Third part, and this is the currently the craze, so that is the generative AI. It can generate something new. Generative AI came to the text much later. First it came to the vision. So these are not done by generator, but these are done by GAN, Generative Adversarial Network. So this is a website, which face is real? So how to do the answer? Out of these two faces, one face is real and another is not. And if you remember, these papers are pretty old, even 5 or 6 years old, the output. So now the output is even more dramatic, so it is even harder to distinguish. But any guess, which one is real? Right one is real. Of course, there is some distinction and that makes it so good. So actually the left one is the real and right one is false.
What do you mean by real?
Real means that is taken by capture camera, and right one is generated by AI.
Generated by us from human face only generates.
It generates.
It's not from some in the side. See, photograph and AI are not two different things. See, from human face, from human face you take it. So what is reality and the unreality about it? So then you have to define reality.
So this is called that from the fake image is coming from the site, the person does not exist. So you are showing an image of a person, the person was never living in this world. So that is the generative.
The function or baby existed. Otherwise, who did the picture from?
No, does not. Actually, every pixel it will calculate separately, and then it will color.
From a human face, it calculates.
No,
Not that
lot of data is there, but in that data, it will somehow incorporate it.
What is so great about it?
Actually, it is statistical. No, there is something great. It's not so easy. Naturally, man, it can say that, but it can actually extrapolate also.
So
Let it do that. So it is extrapolating from an existing face somewhere.
you know kind of the topology, like in which space the faces would be there, and anything you pick from there that would look like a face. That is the beauty.
Sometimes you don't even give the categorization. Even then also it can categorize its own. on its own.
So what is so brilliant about it? Because the human face,
Sir, it is not brilliant because it is only one part of it. But the thing is that it is the possibilities are there, huge possibilities.
little program that way it does. Anyway, go on.
Okay, so another beautiful thing.
Comment?
I have one.
Yeah.
So if we take the topological space, to take a limiting sequence,
Yes.
starting of the sequence is the fake space, end of the sequence is the real space, and you keep going in a asymptotic limit. In which point will you say it is fake? Because when you are very close to the other side of the limit, you will say it's real. Like I take the real picture, I can do some little bit of Photoshop, will still say it's real. So I keep topologically, I take a homotopy from this space to this. I morph it till it becomes this. So there is some point where you say it is fake, beyond some point.
So that depends on the spaces. Right now, the space, how is it been constructed? Like just think from the 2D and 2D, 3D to 2D perspective. In the 3D area, you found out a particular plane, and you said, okay, in this plane, all the faces reside. So finding out that plane, that is important part. Once you find that plane, some of the real faces are there on this particular point, some limited points. But any other point that you pick, that would look like a real face. Another thing that you are talking about, that also is kind of the style transfer idea, same idea, that you can take two faces, and then you can gradually move from this face to this face, and this face to this face. And later now the real new things, the diffusion models, that is even more fun. So there the new generated things are coming from pure noise. From the noise, generally, suddenly or gradually you are getting something meaningful. So it will that fine point where you can say this is real and this is fake. That is absolutely now that distinction kind of is gone. Cannot get to that point.
That's what the human brain does. From a noise, I can remember the face that fellow whom I saw yesterday. He is showing the. So the human brain doesn't much faster.
Yes, Maharaj. So we are intelligent. We are not denying that we are intelligent.
Says that whatever is possible by brain, a computer can do. In fact, that is why many people don't believe this thing.
Fundamentally, what he said is right. See, this specific example has been researched many times. Fundamentally, AI works on large data sets. It has access to what is real. It has access to what is also not real.
What is not real? This human face, I mean,
That
some such face exists somewhere. From there, you construct it.
What AI has done is one part of the large data set, right? As the image to the right. Now, if you were to ask AI, is that fake? It would say it is fake. You know,
Again, Maya, that is only LLM. But the expert systems, you only feed the rules. Like for example, chess game is there. So you don't give any chess game. You only tell it what are the moves, and then it will start. So there it is. That is not LLM. That is expert system. Expert system, you feed the rules. So you
Okay. So now, but when this AI and consciousness and this talking AI, which can talk like us or write like us, has come up with the ChatGPT. So you remember the ChatGPT came out in 2002, and in first 2 months it got 100 million user. But now the more fun part is now. What do you think? Right now, how many active users do you have? In June 2026, how many active ChatGPT users are there? Any guess? What is the population of this earth? 8 billion? Okay. And then how many uses this one? Some million, of course, I guess. Huh? The answer is actually 1 billion people. So 1 out of every 8 people is now an active subscriber or active user of ChatGPT.
What does it prove?
So it is, people are using
Many
it.
people follow something. Trump has million followers. What does it mean?
Million versus billion, Maharaj.
See, this is the start with the glory of ChatGPT. See, this has no meaning. 100,000 people follow something which is totally irrelevant. So what?
No, they are not following it. They are using it, Maharaj. There is a difference. So that means that shows that it has become an everyday part of our life. Yes, that's it, Maharaj.
So then glory, that's not it.
No, we are not glorifying. We are saying that right now in hot state we are. So state of the art 2026. So ChatGPT is one thing, but now ChatGPT from 2002 to 2020 to 2026, there is massive improvement. What are the improvements? Earlier ChatGPT used to hallucinate. It used to imagine things that is not there. Now, what is the solution? They have come up with the reasoning. Whenever they give some answer, they just justify the answer internally and then tell you the result. Okay, so we'll finish with this one. But then consciousness part we didn't go, but that's fair enough. Then it can see and hears. Not only talk, but it can see and hear. It can take action. So that are the agentic AI. Then it can prove theorems. So alpha proof. Google AI team has doing this on alpha proof, which can now solve mathematical problems, give a proper proof, and then publish those proofs. So Stephen sir, I have shared some papers with you, so you have seen that one. It can remember. Right now you do not need to read a book. You want to know something, what is there in the book, you just ask it. You give the book to it. There is a huge context size. Easily it can remember a particular book and can give you explicit answer from that particular book. So that remembers. So all those things can be done. And the next, of course, is come the AGI. Artificial general intelligence. There the idea is now, even now the AI can do something and it cannot do something. Every model has something, some capability, and it may not do some other things. So in a few years, or some critics say that, okay, in decades, it will happen, but it will happen for sure, that there will be some general intelligence that can work like humans, like whatever you can do, it can do in all aspects. Like right now, a singing model cannot write well, or some other things. But that time, a trained model can do whatever you can do, along with doing your laundry, basically. So that is the kind of the future vision, language, and action. They are all coming together. Because, and if you see that these things, seeing, understanding, and acting, this is kind of very similar to our Ekadasha Indriya, our Gyanendriya, Karmendriya, and the mind. These three things are coming together in the AI, and that is natural. Why that is natural? Because we know that all these Indriyas are jara. When it is jara, it can be created, it can be artificially created. So, from there actually comes the next part, Vedantic inquiry, and there actually the question comes, then can a machine be conscious or not? So, very briefly if I say, poor argument, of course, that the answer is, many times many will say that, okay, machine cannot be conscious. Why? Because the machine is jara. And consciousness and jara cannot coexist because they are viruddha svabhava. Therefore, a machine cannot be conscious. But now the basic counter argument to this is that the mind itself is jara. So that argument does not hold, because if you have to hold that machine is jara, so it cannot be conscious ever, then we can opt to say, okay, we also cannot be conscious because we have a body. So then what is this consciousness then?
Mind is jada, but the first statement came up with it.
Yes.
Who is impulsing of?
Exactly, Maharaj.
Saying, but AI is also impelled by me, who am conscious. God has created all these people with so much of, but we are not glorifying God, but this we have created one with 10 million followers. There are 100,000 billion followers since the beginning of creation. God has created all of this.
Yeah.
They say glamorous, but sometimes it is wrong.
So we know that the mind itself is jara. So I think no one has any doubt about that. The mind is jara, intelligence is jara. So that means intelligence can be created. So good. So that's good. Then now the thing is, okay, if intelligence is created, now comes to the Gita. Mai sarvamidam pratam sutre manigana eva. Now, the consciousness that I have in me, does that have in a machine? The answer is yes, again yes. At least if we go by Gita, of course I have to see it is the consciousness is there, but it is not manifested. So some other references, of course, Shutrasya Sutram Manaso Manoi Tasya Bhasa Sarvamidam Vidha Vibhati. And the best one is coming from the Atma Bodha. As a lamp lights a pot, what Maharaj exactly was telling, as a lamp lights a pot, the self lights the intellect, never the reverse. So the glory, as you are correctly telling, we are glorying this artificial intelligence because there is some consciousness behind.
Glory to the consciousness.
Yes, Maharaj, exactly. We have to glorify the consciousness. So that gets into the point, consciousness is never produced. So if I say that a machine can be conscious, I'll say that is a wrong statement. Only thing machine can do, if ever, then it can manifest consciousness, not create consciousness. So the production door is closed. That is the first thing. So, and Thakur has said, actually Thakur Sri Ramakrishna Dev said in the Kathamrita, আমি বলি কিছুই জড় নয়, সব চৈতন্য. So very, Thakur, all the sentences are very simple and to the point. This is also this. So nothing is inert, everything is Chaitanya. So that came in a conversation with the captain. And the same thing he has mocked those who are related, you know about Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature, you know that the Ghati Brahma, Bhati Brahma, that joke by Narendra, that this Ghati is also Brahma, and all, he did not, Sri Ramakrishna did not say anything, he just touched it. And that has changed the reality. So, the other side that we have seen that consciousness is present everywhere. So, this is only in the degree of the manifestation. So, Sri Ramakrishna's another word, তিনি বিভিউ রূপে সর্বভূতে আছেন কিন্তু শক্তি বিশেষ. He dwells in every being as all pervading, but the manifestation of power differs. So, in the AI also, probably what we can see is this gradual improvement in this manifestation of this power. So, that comes into the idea of the Chidabhasha or the minor doctrine. The consciousness reflected in a working antakarana and an empirical knower appears. I know, I think, I decide. So consciousness is there, just all you need is an working antakarana, an instrument. So now question is, what makes a fit instrument? We are all carbon based, but the question is, can silicon based things can be a fit instrument? So that keeps the question open. To these two planes, one is the Paramarthika. A machine cannot be given consciousness. Nothing can, like all things, it is nothing but consciousness. Okay. Now we will go to the Vyavaharika. Where with carbon we know that we are conscious, but silicon can ever be a fit reflecting instrument, as our minds are the metaphysics leaves open, but only for the future to tell. So the conclusion, neither a triumphal yes nor a careless no. We don't yet know that machine can be conscious or not, but we must not say that it cannot be. So the question remains open. And that goes with Thakur's idea. No one may say of the infinite, it ends here. Ishwarer iti kora jay na. So we don't know what is going to come in the future, but we need to keep ourselves open. So thank you everyone.
To be made more something. The next we have Brahmachari Chaitanya. Atre Maharaj, who is the head of the physics department. Head of the physics department, he will talk about physicists evolving role in Viveka there. So my God-given voice is far better than this. This shows the limitation of the machine.
Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai. My most humble pranams to Param Pujya Shankara Bharati Ji Maharaj, Revered Swami Atmapriyanand Ji Maharaj, Revered Swami Sarvabhaumanand Ji Maharaj, all respected monks, brahmacharis and students and faculties of the institute. So my talk will be on physicists' evolving role in the wake of AI. As AI has come in the last few years, how physicists are changing. This is my personal experience, how I am using AI in my research, and so it's a very modest presentation of that only. And so I will start with a story. What is like how physicists come up with some ideas. So in 1912, Einstein was thinking about how to understand gravity. And so he came up with this idea that space-time must be curved. And this is a very, very, very abstract idea. And to get any predictions from that is very difficult. The first stage is to come up with some idea. And so he was thinking about this, how to convert this idea into some mathematics. Then he was discussing with his friend Grossman, and he suggested that there is a mathematical machinery called Riemannian geometry. And only when when both of them connected this idea that space-time is curved with this Riemannian geometry, that they could come up with various predictions that even light bends under gravity, then the perihelion of Mercury. So there are three stages which I want to share, that in the process of discovery of any new physics or any new idea in maths or in physics, there are three stages. First is this abstract conception of the idea or some idea or conjecture, and then that idea has to be mapped onto some mathematical form. And only when that is consistently done, then we can have some predictions. Next slide. And that means that also takes us, there are three kinds of physicists or scientists in general, and or any physicist has these three parts. First is the greatest or the most abstract part, where we come up with ideas. In the case of general relativity, is the state when Einstein came up with the space-time itself is curved, this idea. And then what does it mean? That space-time is curved means gravity has to be geometry, not a force, like electromagnetic force, other force. So that is the second part, the space, that gravity is geometry. And then the most closest part of application is this that connection of gravity with Riemannian geometry, which is a very well-defined mathematical form. And there is also the similar statement in mathematics also, that there are good mathematicians who solve conjecture, there are greater mathematicians who come up with conjectures, and the greatest mathematicians are those who come up with new definitions. So what definitions do is that they dissolve the whole problem itself, and they shed new light in which the old problem does not exist at all. So so there are the three stages of any scientist or mathematician. So where does this AI come in? So AI, we can, like, as I use AI as a librarian, which has read all the books that that is available in the internet, and it recalls every idea, every mathematical term in every book. So if I give it an idea, it can find it finds, this is my own experience, that if I give it some idea, it can find a very close mathematical form if it exists, if the idea is consistent, and if it is possible to get a mathematical form to that, it can find it. And also when the idea is wrong, it points out that. So the first stage, that the link between idea and mathematics, AI is very strong. And the advanced models of ChatGPT or Claude, they do it very well. Because one side is very sharp, the mathematics part is very sharp. So AI can quickly connect an idea to a mathematical part, the mathematical corresponding state. The second part is this. Suppose, how do we come up with any new idea? So as it's my own personal experience, that I have read something in maths, I have read something in biology, I have read something in computer science, and then all those various ideas, somehow they go on in my mind, and at some point I try to use all those ideas to solve some problem in physics. So I'm trying to connect idea with idea between two different domains, from mathematics to physics, or physics to biology, biology to physics. So this is a bit more difficult, and here I have found that AI are not very strong. It does something. If the ideas are simple, it can connect two ideas, but and also the connections are very weak. Like I can see there are faults in the connections, and they are not very cleanly connected. So this part is weak, the idea to idea connection, where this is corresponding to the thing that if space-time is curved, then space-time the gravity has to be geometry. That thing. Imagine if we didn't know about general relativity. If I ask an AI that, okay, if space-time is curved, then what does it mean? I doubt whether it will be able to come up with the idea that gravity is geometry. So that step is still missing, still very weak, I will say. And then the third part, that new definitions, that space-time itself has to be curved, given some experimental inputs from the labs, what should be the new definition that dissolves all the problem? That part is completely out of scope. I will say that because it is not in any patterns of whatever we have known till now. It is not in any pattern, so it's completely out of scope of AI. So, so the way I use the AI, and I have this my own experience, is very perfect complement. So the first part, that given an idea to convert into a maths, which takes a lot of time of a physicist research to have a consistent mathematical machinery for that, and this is what is the domain of high friction and low creativity. If you have to get a consistent mathematical form, like often you can get some mathematical form, but then you will reach a state that there is some problem with that, there is some flaw with that. So this it takes a lot of time, and you have to be expert in that mathematical domain. Otherwise, it's very difficult to convert a mathematical idea, some insight, some intuition into some mathematical form. So this is the domain of high friction and low creativity. You don't have to get any new idea, but you have to use the knowledge of that mathematical domain to get consistent mathematics for that idea. And here the AI is very strong, because AI doesn't have to come up with ideas, it just have to search the whole internet or the whole library to come up with the mathematics behind that idea. So this is the part which, the first part, the checking the maths, which we don't like, but we have to do, but AI is very good at it. And the second part is that the reason why most of us want to become scientists is because we love ideas. We want to come up with new ideas, which it's the state of dreaming, like we want to dream about new ideas. Here I find that AI is weak, and not that we are good, but we like that part. So rarely we come up with very good ideas, but so this is the part which we like and AI cannot do. So first part, checking the maths, AI can do, we don't like, and very difficult for us also. The second stage, the finding out with new ideas, which we want to do, which we like, and AI is not very good. So these two parts complement each other between AI and human. And the third part, which is coming up with new definitions, that the energy packets are itself quantized, the Planck's idea, the new definition, or the Einstein's new definition that space-time itself is curved. So these definitions are once in a decade or once in a century kind of discoveries or revelations, and it is rare even among humans, and it's, if I can say, it is God gifted or it's nature gifted, and very rare. And even if and it depends on a lot of other conditions like surroundings, the people with whom you interact. And if we think that if given second chance whether Einstein would have come up with the same idea, is maybe no. So this new definitions part, which is very rare and which is completely may not be even in the domain of human, also is something God gifted, which is still is out of the scope of AI. So the one takeaway one takeaway for me, at least, by using AI over the last few years for my own personal research in physics, is that it can do very well things which are high friction and low creativity. That mathematical part, if given an idea, if the idea is consistent, first of all, the idea has to be consistent, internally consistent, and if it is consistent, to convert that idea into a mathematical form, it can do well. And also it can find out flaws, if there are flaws in the idea. And the part which we like to spend as a human, that coming up with new ideas, is still in our is still where AI is very weak, and that's good, because we can spend a lot of time in that and come up with really good ideas, and definitions are still open for humans and rare. So that's I will end with that, and few things more, that recently the AIs have been able to get gold medal in International Mathematics Olympiad. So what all those things say is that given a very particular narrow domains, AI can do very well, but it finds it very difficult to take that knowledge to other domains. initially people believed before this thing happened that once AI can solve mathematics Olympiad problem, it will be able to do various kind of things. It will already be kind of general intelligence. But then when it happened, we find that still AI is lacking in many things. So it's not clear actually how much it is evolving. Even I thought, like few years back, I thought AI would be once mathematics, like this kind of benchmark AI can clear, it will be a revolution. But after a few years, yeah, it's doing very well. It can find out many, it has understood mathematics very well, which is already discovered by humans. But to actually find out new ideas, it's still lacking. So I will end here. And if you have any questions, I can, few questions.
So any questions? Yes. So we bombarded Tamal, please bombard him also.
Yeah. Yeah.
We often use it. Thanks. So the question is, this transition between two domains of written words with a picture, does it have a background of a mathematical equation in the background that AI is doing, or how does it work? Can you just, because you said math is the most important.
Yeah, so now you're talking about mathematics of AI. I was talking about mathematics of physics, but now you're talking about mathematics of how AI works. I have very little knowledge, but what I know I can talk with you. Some of my friends are working on that domain also. So obviously it is a transformer, or it's kind of a matrix which takes vectors from one space, say pictures or something, and it gives output in another space.
Can I answer?
Yeah, sure.
Because he is from physics, I am from computer science, Tamal is from computer science. So generally, we have got, for these kind of problems, we have got neural networks. So we use neural networks. And the other model, this chat GPT, etc., that uses LLM, which is a large language model. But for pictures, etc., we have neural networks. But you can actually combine things. So that is what people are currently trying to do it. Like they are trying to extrapolate different models. And even there is a third thing, which is actually we try to implement logic. Like that is very old. Like from 60s, they are trying to incorporate logic into programming, how computer can use logic to derive new things. So that Prolog language was there. In fact, it started from that, like Lisp language. Definitely. So, but we have got different models to solve different types of problems.
I will take a corollary on this, Maharaj. If we have to study the various stotras of Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya, do we have a mathematical possibility of converting those stotras into a mathematical?
So LLM does that. So in fact, what Tamal presented, that was LLM, large language model. And ChatGPT also uses that. Some 10 years back, we were struggling with this language. And whatever we were translating, only 70-80% it was correct. But because of that paper, that attention is what is required, suddenly this probability jumped to like more than 99.9%. So now the language is so good, you can't even find mistakes in like grammatical mistakes in ChatGPT. So LLM model is very successful in giving you a proper language with correct logic. It even keeps the context intact right from the beginning. Whatever it starts writing to the end, the context it maintains, and most of the time it gives, though it is vox populi, it gives you the popular answer, but most of the time it is correct answer.
If you don't give only prompts, not even with sentences.
But with that itself, it can actually vox populi. It has got a lot of, internet now we have got peta or what they say, 10 to power 18, 10 to power 19 bits of data is there. Lot of data is there. That is why big data model.
So large language model works very beautifully in this internet process data. And now it can categorize also. So ChatGPT 1, ChatGPT 2 was bad. Basically, if there was a wrong opinion in the internet, it will give you the wrong opinion. But now the ChatGPT, it can categorize the expert's opinion versus the common people opinion versus rumors, and it gives you expert opinion. That is why you will see that even for medical field also, it will give you very interesting and very correct opinion, which you cannot find, like common people cannot give you that opinion.
All our employees here, there is one boy, he has just passed class 8 from Nepal. I tried to make him pass class 10. I went him twice. He went there, studied, appeared for the exam, failed and came back. But now he writes such excellent drafts in English. I said, what are you doing? He gives prompts in Nepali and then tells the ChatGPT he wrote construct. Now our answers, even thesis, now people have agreed the ethical use of AI is allowed, particularly in European countries where they don't speak English. So you can easily use. The students use ChatGPT to write programs. Unfortunately, in Sanskrit, I think it cannot write thesis. Data is not there. So all that it does is put huge number of data, whatever is, and the greatest and the most interesting advantage is the speed. The only genius of this is speed. The human mind is slow because it is creative. Anything which is absolutely non-creative is always fast, like a bullet train. So that speed, that alarming speed with which you can do this simply amazes you. So thank you, Aditya Maharaj, for your excellent presentation. We want to excite questions. So Atreya. So I always want to poke something so that questions can be roused, like the Purvapaksha. Somebody, Shankaracharya's genius is that he himself raises his own Purvapaksha. When he is Shankara's Purvapaksha, it is absolutely correct. Then he takes it up. So now I invite Swami Vidyapradananda, Kundalini. You will awaken our Kundalinis? No. Swami Vivekananda did this. You know, Vivekananda saw when he spoke about Jnana Yoga, etc., it is recorded. Several thousand people sitting there, Kundalinis got awakened. Then Ramakrishna itself appeared and said, Naren, you stop. Because people totally unprepared, living impure lives, suddenly if their Kundalini is awakened, it is very dangerous. So now I invite Swami Vidyapradananda to talk about Kundalini awakening and consciousness from a neurophysiological perspective. It's an extremely new and interesting topic which he is going to talk about.
My humble pranams to Param Pujyapad Shankar Bharati Swamiji. My humble pranams to revered Atma Priyananda ji, revered Sarvottamananda ji, all monks, all teachers, and dear students. So this is a humble submission. I am delivering. I am delivering this talk not as an expert, but as an explorer of this topic. So. So a little bit background, because it's a heterogeneous crowd, about what is Kundalini. Often we have heard, we have read, some of us have also read about it in extensively. So this is a concept from the Tantra tradition predominantly, and also appears in yoga philosophy. Literally it means the coiled one. Kundali is the coil, referring to the energy that is symbolically depicted as a coiled serpent. Now we know that energy has two forms, potential and kinetic. Potential means that which is yet to manifest, that which is yet to become kinetic, and kinetic is the expression of the potential. So Kundalini is literally the potential energy that can be manifested. And all the practices, the yogic practices, the sadhana, everything, even swadhyaya, meditation, everything is nothing but an attempt to express this coiled up means potential form of energy. And Shakti is the power, the energy which is the expression, the manifest of what is potential. So why it refers to the dormant power? Because it is believed that everyone, every jiva, individual has a storehouse of energy, just like we store fuel in the vehicle before we venture out on a long drive, and that fuel is used every minute for the driving. So similarly, this energy that we require for our whole life and lives after lives is as it were stored in some adhara, which is called the mooladhara. Moola means the root. And there is a very interesting explanation of the 3.5 coils, 3.5 rounds that the Kundalini lies at the Mooladhara. This 3.5 represents 3 metaphysical things. It could, the first round represents the Bindu. Bindu is the dimensionless, that is the indicative of Shiva. And the 2 rounds, if we consider the 2 rounds, then it is the Purusha Prakriti. And the 3 rounds is nothing but the 3 Shaktis, the 3 powers that we use whole life. That is the power of cognition, power of willing, conation, and power of action, called the Ichcha, Jnana, and Kriya Shakti. And also it represents the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. That is when we consider the 3 rounds of Kundalini, and the 3.5, when we take the half, that is actually the Prakriti, the 3 gunas and their modification, the Parinama. And the whole world according to Sankhya metaphysics is nothing but the Parinama of the 3 gunas. So this is the metaphoric way of that description of the Kundalini Shakti, which is coiled 3.5 in 3.5 rounds, and these 3.5 has a metaphysical meaning. So this is the background of from the scriptures. Now, as the topic says, that recent studies, so I took the period 2000 to 2025, and there are several studies, out of which I am just highlighting some interesting ones. Back in 2008, a group of researchers in Portugal attempted to develop a scale called Kundalini Awakening Scale, and they did it very scientifically, following the procedures of development of any scale to measure subjective items. So for example, in medical domain, we see there are a lot of scales used for diagnosis as well as treatment. So somebody is in some pathological condition. In all conditions, especially in pain, we do not use invasive ways because that can aggravate the pain. In those cases, in those pathological cases, some non-invasive methods are used, such as scales. So these scales are basically subjective questionnaires that judge subjective feeling, take subjective data, and then there is a rigorous statistical way of establishing the validity of the scale. So they came up with this scale, which was initially 100 something items, then they scientifically, statistically drilled down to 76 item psychometric instrument. So this is very difficult to administer, because a person who has to answer 76 items is actually also undergoes some kind of rigorous feeling, because they have to put their mind, and often there could be error in the responses. So taking into account all these things, finally they established this, and they did the study on Portuguese population. But this was a first attempt to measure things non-physically, but then there was not any underlying neurological or neurophysiological model that could link the responses to what could be the physiological changes. But nevertheless, this was an initial attempt. Then there are many articles trying to hypothetically map the chakras to anatomical nerve plexuses along the spinal column. These are all hypothetical correlations, and several modifications have come one after the other. Nevertheless, these are also good attempts to map the language of the scriptures to the language of the medical science. Later, in the last 5 to 10 years, there were actually good experimental studies, and which tried to characterize the sensory, motor, and affective features of the some kind of energy change in the system. So whenever we undergo an internal energy change, it expresses itself in some form. It must, because energy is always known by the effect. Because energy, how do we know there is electricity in the room? Just by looking at the lights, the AC, the fan that we are using. So effect is the sure proof of existence of energy. Energy always expresses as some action, work. So what is the work that these researchers tried to identify? Sensory, motor, and affective features, and those were experienced during some kind of kriyas, tantric kriyas, yoga and meditation, and especially the somatic sensations, because those can be measured because they are somatic. And then a very good paper in 2023 by Deshpande and his colleagues, they actually measured the psychobiological arousal. So when as when we are in waking state, what happens is there are a lot of arousal happening in us. Arousal in terms of there are different levels of arousal. So for example, we are awake, we are listening attentively. Attention is a form of arousal. Sustained attention is another form of arousal. Memory is a form of arousal. Concentration is another form of arousal. So there are various types of psychobiological arousal, and each has a corresponding phenomena going on in the brain's, in the spinal column, in the peripheral nervous system, that can be measured. So there was a very wonderful article, a review article, which laid out the perspectives, and I am going to talk a little bit detail on this later. Finally, the very last paper by a group of doctors in AIIMS Bhopal, they tried to measure the change in energy across the spinal column. This is a very good attempt during different breathing techniques. So when we have regulated breathing, when we do pranayama, regulated breathing, there's a lot of activity internally goes on along with the regulation of the breath. And they tried to tap the change of energy flow across the spinal column. They actually made a device to tap it, and the preliminary results they reported. Of course, these are all kind of exploratory studies. It doesn't always establish causality, but nevertheless it studies the phenomenology of the thing, the thing that is real, that is the abstract truth, express itself as some phenomenology which can be studied. So the fundamental question is, can Kundalini energy be measured physiologically, physically? Because these are all studies done, but then if we take a step back and think, well, can it be done? We have done something, but really can it be done? So we have to put our mind and think. We have to go back to the Shastras and try to read between lines that whether there is some indication which shows that if this exercise is done, it is not entirely futile. So here are some pointers for thought. Of course, there are much more things to think about this, but for this occasion, perhaps these thoughts can be taken up. First of all, that all our traditions, our spiritual traditions, the goal is moksha, liberation. That's the ultimate thing we are aiming for, but that's the primary objective, primary goal. But what happens is that having said that, the other things are secondary. That is according to our scriptures. So if the primary aim is liberation, then our traditions are little bit silent on the associated things, which are some kind of benefits associated with the attempt of moksha, the journey towards moksha. So therefore, there could be accompaniments. So when we suppose our destination is Delhi, we have reached Delhi, but on the way we have also passed several other cities. So although it is not our final destination, but we have crossed those. We have crossed Varanasi, we have crossed Lucknow, we have crossed Kanpur, finally reached to Delhi. So, if the moksha is the final destination, is the goal, on the way, are we getting other benefits? And those benefits are called accompaniments. So all these physiological correlates are nothing but to be understood as the accompaniments of the liberative process, and it is not entirely futile or entirely baseless to say, because if you see the lives of the realized souls, and in our order we know that Sri Ramakrishna has experienced these things. And what happened if you read the stories of Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana, then we will see that really he had physical changes in the body when he was doing particular sadhana. So this point is not entirely to be rejected. Yes, there are accompaniments, but that may not be the final thing to achieve, but it is an accompaniment, and those accompaniments may be measurable, tractable, and in some cases clinically relevant. So this is the thought. Then if we talk about the Kundalini, where does it lie in the scheme of Panchakosha? The tantras also say that the Kundalini Shakti works at the Pranamaya Kosha level. So there are some functional changes in that, and that may correspond to some kind of measurable states in the physical and physiological level. For example, in the Pranamaya Kosha, there is always the practices which ascend the level of prana, the Mukhya prana. And how does it manifest? It says that it can manifest in the Mukha. In the Prashna Upanishad, it says that the Mukhya prana is actually evident in the face. So phenomenologically, if the practice, some kind of practice can elevate functionally the Mukhya prana, there would be some kind of changes in the face, and it is there in the Sri Ramakrishna life, that his face actually when in Samadhi would bloom like a lotus, and it would like burst in joy. So, but this is not the primary thing, this is the secondary accompaniment. So this motivates the community of the people who are knowledgeable in scriptures, the sadhakas, and the scientific community to come together and try to bridge these two ideas. Now, interestingly, Carl Jung also talked about Kundalini. In 1930s, he gave 4 wonderful seminars on the psychology of Kundalini. And we know Carl Jung is a famous psychologist, and wonderfully he relates the chakras with psychological states. He says the Muladhara is very detectable, very palpable, very observable, whereas the Sahasrara is more abstract. The Shat Chakra from Muladhara to Sahasrara, from being more detectable to being more abstract. And this journey of Kundalini from Muladhara to Sahasrara he calls as individuation. That means when the ego, the little ego or the alter ego separates itself and becomes one with the superego, that detachment of consciousness is freeing from the tamas, he calls as hypoactivity, and rajas he calls as hyperactivity. This freeing from the passions and the entanglement with the realm of objects, it is a psychical experience of self-deliverance. So he maps this ascent through the chakras with psychical states. What happens when the Sahasrara is reached, when the Kundalini reaches the Sahasrara? He says there is an individuation, there is a separation of this ego with and then it merges with the superego. And this detachment of consciousness is what we are freed from the gunas. So this is one good point to know, that even Carl Jung also discussed and thought about Kundalini Shakti. And this is not completely decoupled with what Swami Vivekananda had said 40 years ago in the 1890s. In the Raja Yoga book, we see that he explains that psychic prana has 2 parts, one that goes to maintenance of the physical body, that is the physical prana, and the other that goes to maintain the antakarana, mind plus is mind, buddhi, ahamkara, chitta, and all that. So that is he calls as psychic prana, and he says that is nothing but the Kundalini Shakti. So the prana is the vital force of every being. All manipulations of the subtle forces of the body, the different manifestations of prana, if trained, give a push to the mind, help it to go up higher and become super conscious from where it acts. So this idea of psychic prana, and he links with kundalini, and that is why we see, perhaps following that line of thought, 40 years later Carl Jung also deliberates on kundalini shakti and expresses it as, maps it as the expression of the psychological progression from being entangled with the passions to being disentangled, and the ego gets freed. So this is a wonderful connection. Now, then again we come back 50 years from the 1930s to 1980s. There was again in 1970s and 80s a lot of wonderful work. One I highlighting here, the Theories of Chakras, Bridge to Higher Consciousness. It's a book published by the Theosophical Publishing House. There it mentioned a series of experiments, an attempt to capture the phenomenology of the action, the change of the Kundalini Shakti. So what they did is, they had some meditators sit on chairs in a room which is electrostatically shielded and free from light. Why? Because those two changes were the parameters they wanted to detect. So there was a round copper electrode and a photoelectric cell. They were all positioned non-attached. It was positioned across several points on the spinal column, and the meditators were doing some kriyas, some tantric meditations. And then, because the room was electrostatically shielded and light proof, they could detect that there is some kind of light emitting, and the light was detected in the photoelectric cell, and the electrodes could detect some high frequency oscillation, but these were not attached to the meditator's body, but was actually positioned very close to the body along the spinal column. This was a time, but then later studies, because surface EMG came, then later studies, what they did is, they actually affixed those electrodes to detect the fine muscular changes along the spinal column, and all recordings was done, and recordings of frequencies above 200 hertz were detected during the meditative practices. So again, this is an attempt to prove the phenomenology of the truth. If the truth exists, the cause exists, it must surely be manifest as the effect. So therefore, this effect, it gives us a clue of the existence of the cause. In mathematics we say functions do mapping. So if there is a function which maps x to y and y to x, we say it's an onto. That means it is sure, it's an if and only if condition, that this will map to that will map to this. Now these studies are not exactly the one onto function, but I would say, in my exploratory study opinion, it's an attempt to develop a function which is one to many. That means if there is a change in the Kundalini, then it manifests as many ways across the phenomenology, and all these attempts are trying to capture one manifestation of the phenomenological manifestation of the real cause, which is the elevation of the Kundalini Shakti. Now, much later, again 40 years later, there was another study by this group of researchers led by Deshpande, where actually they linked the Kundalini change with psychobiological arousal. Now, psychobiological arousal is a very established thing. I would just skip this and go to this. So how they tried to attempt linking Kundalini with arousal, especially in the brainstem reticular activating system. So the reticular activating system is a wonderful gift of nature we have. How do we know we are conscious? How do we raise our knowledge? Because we have this RAS in us, which is nothing but it's a very dense nerve formation, a diffuse central neural network that interconnects both the spinal cord and the cerebral cortex. It lies in the junction of the spinal cord and the cerebral cortex, and it is the brain's on-off switch. That means we receive numerous signals from the environment to our brain, but we can selectively filter, and we can be conscious. We can choose to sleep in a busy street. People you see sleeping in Howrah station amidst all that hustle bustle. How they can sleep? And yet, when we sleep in our comfort zone with a little bit sound, we wake up. So this is all the action of the RAS, because it acts as a bridge between your being not aroused and being aroused, as it were between the subconscious and the conscious. So we can choose to specifically focus on some signals that we will choose to be aware of and we'll choose to be conscious of. So this is a wonderful thing that we can train, we can selectively arouse ourselves. So this RAS is the mechanism, this neurobiological mechanism which actually creates the consciousness and arousal. So what our researchers tried to do is that this RAS has three formations: the medullary, the pontine, and the midbrain, and they tried to map the 6 chakras, the activation of the chakras, to these portions of the reticular formation. And this was a very scientific attempt to map the activation with the nervous system. So because phenomenology says that if the cause is there, then the phenomena will be there. So detecting the phenomena at the nervous system level and trying to link with the chakras and the correspondence, this was a very good scientific attempt. For paucity of time, we cannot go to the detail of the experimentation, but the overall idea and the intent can be clear. So what I am trying to bring home is that progressively the scientific community is trying to make it more and more objective, thanks to the advent of the devices. Those are there, and to detect the small changes in the muscular, in the neural, as well as at the physical level, at the skin level, and also to eliminate the noise out of that measure, the artifact, because noise is a very crucial thing which comes with these kind of biosignals. So with the advent of that, we can actually have more and more objective measurements free from noise. And this is a very evolving thing, that how these chakras, this subtle energy plexuses can be mapped to physical nerve plexuses and can be linked to the neuroendocrine system, the neurotransmitters that act in our body, and what kind of biomarker from the very abstract. On the left column is a very abstract thing to the very measurable thing, the biomarker level. This journey, this mapping is a continuous process. I am just highlighting one snapshot which is there at present, which many of these scientists who are working in these areas more or less agreed upon this. However, this is very evolving, it's still evolving, because as we do more and more studies, this map actually is getting changes. Maybe some other biomarkers would come up 2 to 4 years or 5 years down the line. Some other neuroendocrine system can be added to this list. So this, you see, is just an attempt to map the abstract with the measurable biomarker that we have in our physical body. I will not go into the details of this. So at the fad end I came to, because this is the topic is the recent studies, at the fad end of the talk I came to the most recent work that has been published in 2026 in a very top level journal, Frontiers in Behavioral Neuroscience, and a group of people from our own land, Kolkata, has done this wonderful work, a neurophysiological model of Kundalini. And this is a very good study, I found myself, because what it did is it actually collected 14 years of data across 404 patients by a single medical researcher, the doctor himself. And it was not a randomized or any control study, but exactly observing what is the stream of subjects that are coming, and all these patients had some kind of neurological disorder, either attention deficit or sleep cycle disruption or some kind of hyperactivity and all that. And he classified their state into an index called neural diffusion index, and monitored the progress of that index from being very bad to very good as they were taken through the journey through some Kundalini yoga practice. So maybe in the next some other occasion I can go in deep of this. So just saying that this kind of studies are an ongoing saga, and it is a very welcome move that people are working across various levels, even doctors, even scientists, even philosophists, even spiritual scientists. They are all coming together to work in this area because it is really something which is very palpable. Because if the cause is there, if the cause is the Kundalini, it must be manifesting in some effect, be it physiological, be it psychological, be it neurological. So in this study they actually tried to map this iconography, because in our shastras to explain to the common man they used iconography. When we say Kundalini, it is a serpent, it is represented as a serpent, as a coil, and the arousal of Kundalini is represented like this. When it reaches the Sahasrara, the iconography shows it in a different way. So this group of researchers tried to map the journey of a individual who came as a patient to progress to a higher level, a better level, and they tried to map this journey of the patient to these 3 stages depicted in the iconography. So thank you very much for giving the chance to talk about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Swami Vidya Pradhananda, for a very interesting discussion which we did not know. The entire game started, as most of you may know, when Swami Vivekananda visited the West, talking about Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is a unique kind of synthesis of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which is the second part. First part, he discussed prana, psychic prana, and integrated with the Kundalini Yoga also. And there was tremendous interest in the West. And many of those people at that time who were interested, anatomists, doctors, they wanted to experiment on this. William James was a very famous figure at that time. He wrote a book, Varieties of Religious Experience, based on discussion with Swami Vivekananda. And Vivekananda was challenged by people, can you enter into the state of Samadhi? We will physiologically test you. And he did. They said, we have no answer to this. And Sri Ramakrishna himself, they said, can you enter into Samadhi? We will test you medically. And as far as I heard, medically, the last confirmatory test of death, that the doctor puts his finger on the eyeballs and then he scratches it. Any person with some kind of life, there will be some reaction. There is absolutely no reaction to Ramakrishna. He said he is dead. But he came back alive. Then it went around, here is a person who dies 6 times in a day and comes back again. So science has no answers for this. I wish if Shankara Bhagavatpada had been tested like this, he would have shown. Because his jnana overshadowed his yoga. He was one of the greatest of yogis ever born. So he wanted to establish a system of philosophy called Advaita and show his extraordinary superiority because it will unite everybody. But the kind of karma and the yoga that he did and his bhakti, that is being overshadowed by the glare, extraordinary, the brightness of the sun of knowledge. He was jnani, bhakta, yogi and karmi in one. So these studies were initiated by Vivekananda himself at that time. A lot of interest was aroused at that time. Even now, the Westerners are very enamored of the Kundalini because something very new. And in the West, when I was there in Los Angeles and elsewhere, a devotee came. Swami, I saw a peculiar sensation at my back. Is it the Kundalini? Because the serpent and Kundalini, they're very enamored. And in our country, even people who sing in the street, the Siddhas, and in Bengal it's called the folk songs, Baulgan, and in Tamil it's called Siddhas. And all the regions in India, they'll be simply walking around this. Pambatti Vidya. They will say, they'll play with the Kundalini. Oh, Kundalini, oh, snake, come on. So they were so much used to all this, but unfortunately we lost all of them by too much of privacy and too much of monopolization of knowledge. We can share it with everybody. And now again there's a great awakening. So we will now thank Vidya Pradhanji and go on to Dr. Arkadev Datta's discussion. Consciousness exploration beyond a single site and single rhythm in the brain. He is a brain researcher. His original subject is physiology, but he has done a lot of work, decades of work on particularly focusing on the brain. He is now an assistant professor doing a lot of work combining brain research and neurological sciences as well as the physiology and spirituality.
And Maharaji. So I start my talk. HM, Henry Mollison. So Henry Mollison, in his earlier years, he got a cycle accident and suddenly it turned into the temporal lobe epileptic. He was experiencing temporal lobe epileptic seizures. And then the clinicians, they thought of just removing this part of its brain. If you see, this is the intact part. So this is the brain. You turn the brain upside down. And when they removed this part from the surgery, what they found is that HM could not remember anything after the surgery which is happening in his life. So this is the part we actually store our navigational memory, our long-term memory. Although the earlier days before the operation or before the surgery, those memories were reserved. So there is no single place in the brain that actually conserves the memory. Memory are of different types, from semantic memory, navigational memory, episodic memory. So all of them, they have their a kind of a global part they occupy in the brain. So with time, science has improved, and yeah, so we got these images. You can see these are the technological wonders of the state-of-art technologies that neuroscience has provided, that engineers have provided to study neuroscience. So here you can see this is actually the mapping the areas of the brain that are functionally activated during a task. So that means the neurons which are getting activated in a specific task, their blood supply in that region is increasing. And we are actually statistically finding that which regions are responding to an active task. And here you can see this image. This is a very fantastic image showing the tracts in the brain. That is how the white matter tracts, they connect from one region to another. So this goes or shows you the network dynamics, and these three colors means they are going in three different directions. So this shows the directionality, and here you can see another technology. We say it's the positron emission tomography. So what does PET do? It does is that it actually images the markers. The markers means the biomarkers in the brain that gets tagged in the specific areas at the time the brain is performing some task. So that means it is performing some metabolic activities, and from that metabolic activities we reflect that what kind of markers or biomarkers are conducting or performing those tasks. So these are actually helping us to elucidate that how we look to this world. So if you look at this, so this is actually the real world image, and the brain, it has several areas. It actually takes the image and then it breaks the image into small fragments, and these small fragments are actually processed in some kind, we say that some unconscious networks. Why I'm saying the unconscious network? Suppose if I shine light in front of the eyes, the patient is anesthetized, the patient will not feel that the light was shown before his eyes. But if I put or record the place from the brain where the light is received, so we can see that those neurons, they will lit up. So that means these are the kind of very basic unconscious network that processes the very preliminary information. So when we create a unified world of percept, the whole complex scenario is first broken in certain areas of the brain, and then they gets again integrated. This is how the current AI is actually running. And besides that integration, you need to have a kind of a consciousness. Consciousness means what is happening, what kind of information is happening, whether I have to put the information in the storage, and further, in order to put the information in the storage, one should have a level of attention, arousal inside him. So this fantastic picture actually, although you can see it's a little blur, so these are the different features of a stimulus. If you think of a visual stimulus has many categories. One is color, orientation, distance, whether it is moving or not. So everything in the brain, for a sensory stimulus, you will see that our brain asks two questions, that what is it, what we are seeing, and where is it coming from. So one area is the processing the what information, another area is processing the where information, as well as when it is coming, it can also process us. So these are the very objective things neuroscience are till date addressing, and with these instruments we can find our neuroscience is able to answer the easy problem of consciousness. The easy problem of consciousness means what is happening in case of what are the neural correlates of attention, what are the neural correlates of memory. So we can able to address this. But neuroscience still is trying to find that how one experiences when these physical processes are running in the brain. So I will show you in the next slide. At the top, you can see this is an electron microscopic picture of the protein channels. I saw you those neuronal firing at that time. So what does this, actually what are these functions? So these channels are actually open up, and they, through these channels, the positive ions inside the neurons, they enter. This causes the firing. So what happened is that, if you look at, I am clicking it again. So this technology is actually applied in mice, and here you can see it, that this is known as a 2-photon imaging. In 2-photon imaging, you are going through the depth of the mouse brain, and you can see when a mouse is performing any kind of active action, what are the neurons. Suppose if it is going through a path and then it is encoding navigational memory. So what are the engrams, that is the trace of the whole process is happening, and how is it happening, and which neurons are actually taking part in that. So these kind of engrams are actually forming. So in the next picture, this is the most fascinating. Now the neuroscience has developed so much that now by shining light onto these neurons, we can manipulate the behavior of an animal. So this can be done by catching those channels and just tagging those channels with the light activating protein. So this light activating protein, we found it from the bacterial world, algae world, and then genetically engineered, and then it was introduced into the mouse specific brain areas that we want to study, those populations. Suppose a population of neurons that is excited when the mice experience fear. A population of neuron gets excited when the mouse shows aggression. So let's see this picture and we will get an idea about this. This field is actually known as optogenetics. Yeah, I'm coming to consciousness. So you can see this mouse. So whenever a blue light will be shown, this is a fairly very naive stick. It will charge and attack the stick. So my point is a lot of, can I play this video again? Niche it. No, niche it.
So come to human beings. We don't want mice. We want human consciousness.
Yeah. So from there, the
Would it not be suffering?
no, it's not suffering at all. No, the brain doesn't have any pain receptors, so they do, no, it's not suffering inside.
Human brain is
So yeah, so this is the practicality. So it's showing aggressiveness whenever the light is shown on those areas. So optogenetics has actually done put it off. So really the wonders. So what kind of wonders? So we can actually genetically engineer, or we can change the behavior of a addicted mouse. We can change the fear circuit of this mouse by shining light on this. So a lot of things we can do. Suppose there was a study which shows that ventral tegmental area in the brain, it releases dopamine. We know that dopamine is a hormone that stimulates motivation. Shut it down. So what happens is that
scientists can switch on cells in this mouse's brain simply.
Yeah. So although these in the case of depression, I'm saying, so what happens, our mouse is মহারাজ একটু বলে নি এটা তাহলে আমি
From mouse you have to come to chimpanzee, from chimpanzee to human being, the time is running out. And you have not even touched consciousness, which is a discussion now. So these are all well-known things in physiology and the brain research. We don't want this. Talk about consciousness, come quickly and finish in 5 minutes.
So the hard problem is in the consciousness is that if you look at that subjective experience, so what we will do is that we say that by manipulating those neurons, one can treat the symptoms of depression. The symptoms of depression means that anhedonia, loss of motivation, as well as eating, drinking, as well as sleep disturbance, that can be corrected. But we don't know by stopping this whether we have physically stopped that symptom phenomena or whether the schema of the consciousness of depression still exists. So that's actually the hard problem of the consciousness to be addressed by neuroscience. So neuroscience, actually the problem is it's exploring the consciousness by breaking it down into observable and measurable components that I have shown you. Neuroscientists basically focus on neural correlates of consciousness, that is the minimal set of neuronal events, the mechanisms required for a specific conscious percept. If we show you the entire room, at that time you can actually give me each and every bit of information from the entire room. But if you can only show me the bit of information like that camera, that is also can be a minimal percept that you are reporting. So neuroscience actually rely on this kind of reporting aspect. Today, modern neuroscience generally relies on a new leading theoretical framework to explain how brain activity gives rise to the subjective experience. So there are this modern theoretical framework on consciousness, the global neuronal workspace theory, predictive processing, integrated information theory, high order theory. So above this, you can see these two theories, the global neuronal workspace theory and the predictive processing. So what is global neuronal network workspace theory? So this theory actually says that in the posterior part of the brain, there are a lot of many specialized unconscious networks that I told you. Those are the preliminary things that processes the neural informations about shape, size, orientation. And these should be selected and to be broadcasted in the anterior or the frontal part of the brain globally throughout the wide space, so that it can be then taken into whether it should be attended, it should be put into the memory. So that area that comprises the frontal lobe and parts of the parietal lobe of the brain is actually, say, the center of the consciousness. And predictive processing, what it says, the predictive processing, it says that it is the parietal areas of the brain that itself the system can act consciously when it starts to integrate information. So an integration of information means it can take all the complex scenarios of the information, as well as it has the capacity to discriminate it. So these are the two most acceptable theories. And if you look at these, so in the middle figure, you can see that each nodes, so each nodes is actually particularly a population of neurons, and they build up these networks. So the complexity of the networks, we can see that with the aspect of time, so 1, 2, 3, 4, these points are here, and we can see that this is actually the EEG wave, and from this EEG pattern, the spatiotemporal pattern, we can see how is the complexity of the information it's presenting. But if we go into an anesthetic, deeply anesthetic state, you can see only these two type of networks, and the complexity is practically gone. However, if there is a loss of discrimination means all those nodes at the same time here, they are bursting with the information. So all the nodes, if they are bursting with the information, you see practicality, there is no complexity in the information. So this was actually tried with an experiment. So this is the transcranial magnetic stimulation experiment. Here the experimenter puts magnetic stimulation in the brain, and these points are from where they are recording the EEG. So what we can see, so this is the wakefulness. The wakefulness shows very complex structures of the EEG pattern. As one moves to the non-REM sleep, that when we are going into the deep sleep stage, then the complexity vanishes, and during the REM sleep, again we gain the complexity. That means some information processing is going on inside the brain when a person is dreaming. So the computational neuroscientists, what they tried is that they took all these informations, the complexity of the informations, and then this paradigm is known as zap and zip mechanism. Zap means you are just ringing a bell inside the brain by putting a stimulation, and zip means whatever complex data is coming out, so you are actually zipping this through a algorithmic process. And there is a perturbational complexity index. The higher the index means the brain is showing more complex consciousness. So this current consciousness, consensus was tested in a landmark study which was recently published in Nature in 2025. So the proponents of those two ideas, the global network theory as well as the integrated information theory, so they were pit against each other by a group of neutral researchers. So on the same subject, same patients, the number of patients were 256 patients, where fMRI was conducted, EEG was conducted, as well as the magnetic encephalography was also conducted. So through these studies, they found that neither of the theories that came out like winner takes all. So some part of the theories were accepted in that model and some were not. So in that case, we say that the whole thing that not IIT, which the AI mostly rely upon, the integration of information theory, or not the global space network. Both of them are partially showing or deciphering the consciousness, but not all. So we need far more theories. Now this is consciousness under the clinical settings. So when we see consciousness under clinical settings, what we see again is that consciousness in the clinical settings is actually studied through the scale. Scale means when a patient goes into coma, how he recovers. So we use a subjective scale we known as coma recovery scale revised. So the patients, if he is responding to visual stimulus, auditory stimulus, or a motor stimulus, we can say that the patient has some sort of consciousness. But in a case which is known as locked-in syndrome, the patient cannot respond, but it can process, it can perceive. So there was one study known as the tennis ball experiment, or the patient has been told in coma, or in the we can say it's in the unconscious state, or better in a clinical way. So when the patient was asked to imagine that he's playing tennis or playing football, then the researchers have seen that the areas that plan this movement are getting activated. So can we say the patient is not, is dead? No, is not dead. If someone is telling, okay, you just think of you are moving up the stairs of your house, then that part of the brain that is actually memorizing the navigation or encoding the navigation, this is getting activated. So this is how the fMRI studies are also important. So TMS was the latest thing that they introduced, that this is the zip and zap method. So we have to manipulate the brain with a stimulus and then we will show it. So understanding consciousness in the meditative state. In the meditative state, you will see that meditation leads to, so in the meditation, it's completely different. When you are starting to meditate, you are a starter, things are a bit messy. But with long hours of meditations, like 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours, these are the brain of the meditators, you will see that the whole thing is that they completely shut out their the reflector of all the external things that's going on, that is the cortex, and only the deep brain structures, they remains activated. So that this is actually when there is a person is wandering, mind wandering, he is completely relaxed. And in the meditative state, what will happen, this default mode network, its activity will come down. Okay, it will come down, and these states are actually, these are the areas that are responsible for the meditative states. So consciousness studies major challenges attempting to measure the objectively a purely subjective experience. Over reliance of the cortex. I'm saying why over reliance of the cortex, because Maharaj, just give me 5 minutes. I will.
You have started with this.
No,
Minds you spend half an hour.
So I'm saying that over reliance on the cortex means, now the idea is that the scientists are thinking we are too much overemphasizing the cortical area because they are processing the whole things, these and universal percept. They are now looking at, no, maybe this is in the deep brain structures. The deep brain structures means the brain stem. So from the brain stem, maybe the consciousness, it's rising. So we have to look at it. Then there is another limitation, is this defining the neural correlates of the consciousness. So this is one of the recent study I'm showing you. I will just discuss the plasticity and language in the anesthetized human hippocampus. So in AI it will work. So what is actually happening? These are totally anesthetized patients, and they are being the stimuli that were produced, they have been presented with different types of verbs, nouns, adjectives, and in completely anesthetized state, their brain was able to, the part of the brain that is the hippocampus, their activity was showing that they were able to discriminate those nouns, verbs, as well as adjectives, and in a sentence what it is coming. So this is actually a very surprising kind of things, because we think that we can only memorize language. Language is something we have to be conscious to understand. So how this is getting achieved? This can only get achieved because the network may have, I will say at this point, the capability for intrinsic activity. Intrinsic means in that case they can look, they can communicate, they can nurture itself. Otherwise, it could not happen. When the patient woke up from the anesthesia, they were then presented that what these were the words, verbs, and sentences had been presented. Do you remember? They said no. We do not remember it. So as a network, as a specific network, if we train that network repeatedly with the experience, memory comes. And that network suddenly becomes the hub, what we say it's a consciousness. So with this, we can say that neuroscience views consciousness is a global network phenomenon that is required to report, act upon, and consolidate the explicit memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Arkadev Datta, for finishing the talk. See, I was expecting that he would speak about the latest and the most fantastic experiments going on, neuroplasticity. He didn't touch upon it. What little I know, I'll tell you. Neuroplasticity is a phenomenon which has been found that adult neurogenesis, they say. When you grow, neurons don't develop, new neurons develop after some age. And therefore, you can't remember things. Please sit down.
Yeah.
You can't remember things after some time. So the genius of our ancients was, as soon as a boy or girl reaches the age of 5, go to the Gurukula, go on repeating. They said, don't try to understand the meaning. Avriti sarvashastranam bojhadi bigariyasi, repeat. Why? Before you attain the age of adolescence in which the logical brain develops, all these great ideas should be pumped into the brain. Afterwards, they will slowly, you can understand the meaning. And when you keep on repeating, it has been found experimentally that adult neurogenesis takes place because the brain becomes, it is called neuroplasticity of the brain. And we started an experiment with Dr. Arkadev Datta here. Unfortunately, it didn't proceed because we have 5-year integrated course on Sanskrit. Every year, these boys keep on chanting. So we want to make a study from first year to second year to third year to fourth year to fifth year, how the neuroplasticity of the brain is happening. This is a fantastic study. Why our ancients insisted so much on memorizing, and unfortunately the moderns say, oh, I am a critical thinker. I don't want to memorize. You fool, you have to memorize. Because after you reach an adolescence, you can't remember anything. So this is a great study why memorization at the young age was so much insisted upon in India. And the other important aspect is the idea in Yoga Sutra. You know how the drug menace came into being? The drug menace came into being because Aldous Huxley was a disciple of Swami Prabhavanandaji in Hollywood, Los Angeles. He used to sit at his feet and learn the Yoga Sutras. When Prabhavanandaji was reading about this, Aushadhi also can induce higher states of consciousness, immediately asked, Swami, this has to be caught and we should experiment. And he said, no, don't write this, very dangerous. This is from the parampara. In the presence of the Guru, you should do this. Don't do this, but he did it. And the LSD and etc., they can induce higher state. Patanjali acknowledges. We do not know why he said this. That means, with the drugs, even clinically, you can alter the brain states so that higher states of consciousness can be induced. Samadhi can be induced through drugs, that's what he says. So these are fascinating areas, and I thought he will touch upon all this. Anyway, a lot of time was spent in mice. Yes.
Hari Om Swamiji. So one thing is, he was mentioning of the default mode network. I had a question there. The studies on drugs, especially like DMT, creating very blissful experiences. One thing they found was the default mode network asymptotically shutting off. And the main thing the DMN is codifying is the sense of I and me, like aham, mama, bhava. So my question was that, can we think of different subnetworks in the DMN, different layers of the DMN, and probably like what was told in the previous talk, that the Sahasrara was the DMN shutting off. The different stages of Kundalini, could it be different levels of DMN subnetwork shutting off? Could there be a conceptualization like that? Because
I would suggest you discuss it separately because time is running out.
Sure.
So If you people go into higher states of consciousness, then the seminar will not happen anymore. So one more thing which is being constantly being talked about in His Holiness the Dalai Lama has initiated a huge process with the neuroscientists and the spiritualists will come together. He started a Mind and Life Institute based on his Nobel Prize. So I am also part of that. I went to Dharmshala also many times. There is one Dr. Richardson, who is a very famous neuroscientist in America. He is a disciple of Dalai Lama. I asked him about consciousness. He said, well, there was a time when the neuroscientists frown on the word consciousness. Now they are using it commonly, and the emergence of consciousness, etc., they are studying, but it's a very, very preliminary level, and we have gone far ahead in India. Unfortunately, not properly documented, not researched into, and the knowledge was monopolized and not given to everybody. So we go to the next talk. Swami Sarvottamananda, last talk. He will talk about consciousness and AI. 20 minutes.
नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित सुखद स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Namaskar everyone. The topic given to me is artificial intelligence and consciousness. In the first half, in 10 minutes, I would like to talk about artificial intelligence and consciousness from the viewpoint of computer scientists, and then later on I will talk about it as a Vedanta. Maharaj told I am against AI. Really, I am not against AI, but there are a lot of bad effects of AI on education. Like I teach a course, I see that all the students, they copy the homework using ChatGPT. That is why I have become fed up with AI. And other point is also there, which people did not talk about. See, in this recent US-Iran war, AI was extensively used to optimize the destruction. So that is why we have to think about this ethical use of AI too. Okay, so I come to the topic, AI and consciousness. There are two things. One is intelligence, other is consciousness. To understand why we are comparing AI with consciousness, we have to think about the historical development of AI. Because when AI started, the goal was not very big, really speaking. In fact, Tamal Maharaj, he talked about the computation, definition of computation by Turing and Church. So it started from there. In the earliest day, even you should think that people were even thinking whether this computation can be automated. It is this artificial intelligence is a very big thing. Earlier people were thinking whether computation itself, machines can do it or not. And in fact, we have come a very long way. So first Turing, actually Church was before Turing. Church, he took this problem, whether we can define computation using mathematics. So whether we can define the mathematical computation using mathematics. Before that, you had effort on logic using logic. So whether we can define logic using logic. Mathematicians will know. So later on it is proved that the mathematics, that is number theory, is equivalent to set theory, is equivalent to logic, is equivalent to string theory. Actually, Turing machine is Turing. What Turing did was he
defined computation in terms of string manipulation. What Turing machine is string manipulation. It's not really mathematics, but later on he showed that all mathematics can be done by a Turing machine, and then question of this intelligence came up. What do we mean by artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is, though it is simple, but we have to spell out. So it is whether intelligence can be artificially created. Artificially created in what? In machines. So it is so simple. Artificial intelligence means intelligence created artificially in machines. So actually they started with this. Then after this they tried to define what is intelligence. So initial definition was basically what they wanted was that, okay, intelligence is the domain of humans and the brain is intelligent. So whether anything can be done by brain can be done by machines or not. So that is how this Church Turing thesis, very old thesis is there, not proven, not yet proven. It says whatever brain can do, a machine can do. Which the corollary is that brain is all computation. Actually, really, in our Vedanta, we don't believe that, but I am talking with the viewpoint of computer scientists. So that is why I am saying that brain is all computation. So now they ask this question: what are the tasks that brain can do? So brain has got originality, it can do computation, definitely some computation, arithmetic at least it can do, and it can do logic. Then it is originality is there, so creativity is there. Then creativity, initially people thought that probably computer would not be able to do other things that people thought, and even now the computers cannot do are the feelings part. And self-awareness, actually, how you define self-awareness. So the Vedanti, they define self-awareness as something else. We define it as Chaitanya. Whereas the psychologists, Western psychologists, Western philosophy, we have to understand this, how they define this self-awareness. So they define self-awareness is whether a person is aware of his or her physical self. That is what they define as self-aware. So those people who have studied psychology, they will know that there is a mirror test for animals. So what they do is they will put a mark on the face of animals, and they put the animal in front of a mirror, and they want to check, but they put it for some time, so 1 day, 2 days, and then they want to check whether the animal it can detect that the mark is not on the image, but it is on his own face. If it is able to do that, then we say that the animal is self-aware. So very simple test. I'm just telling this test to highlight the point that the definition of self-awareness for the psychologist, it is different from Vedanti. For us, it is actually kind of a feedback, Chaitanya, that we are self-aware, we are aware of our Atma, aware of ourself. That is what we call self-awareness. But for the scientists, the psychologists, the self-awareness is different. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, when we talk about consciousness, we compare them. The scientist's way of doing things is first they define things like what exactly are these, and then they try to implement it in computers, and they fail or they don't fail. In fact, some of the things they are quite successful. So in the beginning, the intelligence was defined as computation. So computation, they were able to do it. And Tamal Maharaj talked about it. So it is very old field. So it is like 1955 it started. Earlier we had a Lisp language. So they tried to have this feedback. No, so they define what is again second thing. that is the manifestation of consciousness is this response. So you talk to him, I talk to you, you will talk back to me. This response, this kind of response system, whether computer can have. So that is why this ELISA system came. Actually, initially, in fact, first year it came, I interacted with it. It came to our institute. The program itself came to institute, and we were actually very amazed by it at that time. So it was, I think it was 86, 87. At that time, this ELISA program was brought to our institute, and we were given, the program was given to us to interact with, and we are actually very amazed with that. So in fact, we were actually programming at that time. So we really were doing some toy programs, so some bigger programs also, but not as extensive as the ELISA. So the computer artificial intelligence, how it developed was, first we had this computation, definitely. Later on, whether we can do logic, so we had Prolog, etc. I talked to the different aspects of artificial intelligence. Nowadays, everyone talks about only LLM. LLM stands for large language model. So everyone, whatever people say, like ChatGPT and other logic also, other AI platforms also, they use this LLM extensively. But I want to tell you that artificial intelligence is not just LLM. It is much more. It has this logic, it has this expert systems, and also neural network. They try to see, because this question of brain comes up, so it is trying to copy the brain. So when you try to copy the brain, you want to simulate the brain. See, there is certain differences between computers and brain. We have to understand this. In the brain, we have got lot of, now the question is not surpassing the brain. It is trying to mimic, we are trying to mimic the brain. So the brain, it has got lot of neurons, but each neuron, the computational power is less. It's very small. So it has got it gets some signals, it compares them, and some exponential, these threshold values are there. Then if it crosses that threshold value, some of the outgoing nerves are fired. Very simple kind of computation. Computer, on the other hand, it has got very few processors, but they are high powered cores. So here we have got very few processors with high powered computing, and the brain has got lots of neurons with very less power. So that is the only difference. Here we have got quality, and in the brain we have got quantity. And surprising, some of the tasks like pragmatic thinking, the brain can do much better than computer, like our pattern matching. Immediately we see a picture, we can immediately categorize what is the picture made of, or what are the different components of the pictures. Computer has to do lot of computation for that. So that difference arises from the different models. Here you have got a neural network model, and here you have got a single processor computing model. So this difference we have to understand. But even then, we try to do this neural network simulation. Only problem is the number of neurons in our simulated neural networks, it is still very less, because you see those people who have background from from engineering, they will know that the electronics is etched on the surface of the microprocessor. And brain is actually like 3D. So it is 3D versus 2D. Only we have got computation in the computer only on the surface, whereas in our brain we have got 3D. So whole volume is filled with the neurons. So billions of neurons. I don't know, our neuroscience experts will tell them. I read from the wiki, read in the wiki, but I forgot the actual number. But there are, I think, billions of. Okay, so it is 100 billions. 10 to the power 9 is the billion, so 100 billion neurons are there. When we compare computer science with, we want to implement or we want to simulate consciousness, then there is a graded process. So first comes brain, then comes mind, and then comes soul or consciousness. So first we try to simulate the brain. Here actually to a lot extent, to a very big extent, we are successful. What we are not successful is two things. One is feeling, and one is actually, people know survival instinct is not there. In the computer, survival instinct is not there. So that is why you can very easily damage computer, and definitely a lot of computing power is needed. So you pull up the plug, immediately it is dead. AI is dead. So survival instinct is not there. And second thing is feeling. We are still not able to have this feeling. And third thing is ego. The computer does not have an ego. And our Western scientists, they don't worry about Atma. Some of them, they are atheists, so they don't even think about this mind, but they think that brain, just because of quantity begets quality. So they say that the feelings, the ego, and lastly the consciousness, everything comes as a byproduct of computation or byproduct of of brain activity. Some of the things, as I said, like the brain things, originality. People used to think that originality is difficult to be simulated in computers. But right now, you will not, the present generation will not be. I was very surprised when computers started drawing painting nice pictures, creating music. Now it can create videos also. Though we have to tell them about the aesthetics, because when we only input the rules, so we can input the rules. For example, the painters, they have got this idea of harmony of colors, balance of colors, harmony of contrast, and balance of contrast. A lot of things are there in the painting. But the computer, when these rules are given, it will give you a lot of very good geometric painting. So computer will think that these geometric painting are the height of the art. So you have to tell the computers, no, the Picasso or Michelangelo and those paintings are the height of art. Then if you give the categorization or definitions you give to the computer, then it can actually simulate art. Why it can do it? In fact, I asked some of my friends who are working in AI, and they said, they actually told me. I also had some idea, but they specifically told me. See, whenever this domain, again, my previous speakers have told about this. So whenever the domain is small, even the domain may be very complicated, lot of computation might be needed, lot of rules might be there, but if the domain is very small, then computer can very effectively simulate it. Whereas if the domain is very big, the computer finds it very difficult to simulate it. That is why the computer, for expert things like medicine, you will be surprised to know that in medicine it is very effective. Playing chess, Go, very difficult game. We think that it is like our chess experts, Kasparov, our Vishwanath, their height of intelligence is there. But the thing is, because the domain is small, computer can very easily do it. In fact, nowadays there is no game. I would say there is no game where people used to think that even Go is very difficult game, and new games are coming up. But I will say that there are no game where computer is not an expert. Computer is expert in all the games which are available, because the games means the domain is usually very small. One thing I will talk about, then I will go to the consciousness. that in our computers, see, I talked about the domain. So in computers, this Turing test is there. So Turing test, why earlier it was difficult? Because the domain of practical thinking, pragmatic reasoning, it is very large. But even now, as Kamal Maharaj said, that computer can beat human beings in this Turing test. But there is one problem in Turing test. That is, we want computer to mimic human brains. So that is, we try to dumb down the computer. Artificially, we are trying to dumb down the artificial intelligence to human intelligence. So dumbing down, I am really speaking, really talking about this term, because really speaking, again, I asked the same expert friend, like why AI can replace so many jobs. Then he said, let us be very frank about it. Most of the jobs that humans do, it does not require much intelligence. So that is why it is going to replace lots of jobs. And in fact, this I talk, see, our Olympiad Atre talked about Olympiad. So in fact, this is one of the domains. This originality is conquered. Research, people have still doubt, but I will tell you, there are at least 10 original research, mathematics, not physics and other humanities. Mathematics, around 10 results are there which are attributed to the computers. I have seen 2 results. One result, which is very old, first result was there, not very interesting, because lots of cases were involved. So thousands and thousands of cases were involved in the, so that is what, it is not a very interesting result. So probably so many cases were involved, so probably humans would not. But the important point is, it was a new result. And second paper is very surprising, because it is a very short paper. So the computer wrote a 16 or 17 page mathematical result paper, and which another researcher it shortened to even less than 10 pages. So short paper means it is not very coarse. Many cases are not there. And that also it was able to do. So it is a much bigger result than our Olympiad, solving Olympiad questions, because it is a new result which no human had done it. And other results are also there which are kind of guided research. But these 2 are not guided research. So it's actually very amazing kind of things, that AI has done. So that is why I say that people, they think that AI can do some things. Actually, AI cannot. But people think that AI can't do those things. AI can. So we have to actually reformulate and rethink what AI can do and what AI cannot do. Second point, we come to the consciousness. This is, we discussed about AI. So AI, I said that what AI cannot do. Again, I come to my, this is, earlier I was talking about facts, but now I will talk about opinion. So it is my opinion. So I think that AI, naturally this survival instinct, ego, and last is feelings. So these things, actually I think that AI will not be able to do, because according to us Vedantins, this is actually part of our mind. So mind, though it is said to be like physical existence, but lot of physical existence, even now computers or even scientists, they are not able to know the existence through our instruments. So probably it will take, even if they are able to do it, like thinking also. Thinking is also, we say that mind does that. Or the only thing that is attributed to Atma is consciousness. That is like a Chaitanya, Satchitanand. So existence, consciousness, and bliss. That is that comes from Atma. So these things, Satchit Anand, I think this cannot be done by the computers. But other things, there are possibility, but there are certain things which our computer can definitely do it. So there are four functions of mind that is attributed to mind. Smaran Shakti and Mana is, it can deliberate, and brain, the Buddhi, it can Nishchayatmika. And last is Ahankar. So first three actually the computer can do it. So memory, it has got memory. Then deliberation, so computer vision, it can do that. It can do that. Again, machine intelligence, two parts are there. One is computer vision, and other thing is decision making. Computer vision is this knowledge acquisition. You see something and then you categorize what you are seeing. Decision making is like your karmendriya. First is jnanendriya, second is karmendriya. Jnanendriya is your knowledge acquisition. Karmendriya is decision making. You decide on what you have acquired, the knowledge you have acquired, and do something about it. So both things are there in our artificial intelligence, in machine intelligence. First is knowledge acquisition, and second is this we have to keep in our mind. So Smaran Shakti, computer can definitely do it. Deliberation, that also. And Nishchayatmaka, that is decision making. Decision making also it can do. Ego, possibly not, because as I said, it does not have an ego, does not have an idea of I, but actually it passes that animal, this mirror test, because already we can input now, so computer knows that it is a separate entity. It can detect mirrors, because mirrors, they are not perfect mirrors, so you have got parallax, and there is a surface of mirror also it can detect, and it can detect itself through the mirror. So the animal test, this what the psychologists defined as the self-awareness test, it can pass. But the self-awareness, according to our Vedanti, that we don't think that computer can do it. So what are the things we are sure that we can do is this Smaran Shakti, and Nishchayatmika, and deliberation. This we are sure that computer can do it. Feelings part, ego part, and this awareness. Feelings, again, though we are not able to, we say that it can't do it, we have no way to prove it, because there is a dogma. There is a dogma that whatever one matter can do it, another material thing can do it. So if we say that brain is material, whatever brain can do, computer can do. And if we say that mind is material, which our Tamal Maharaj said, then we have to by this dogma, it is possible, not now, maybe in future, it is possible. At least we cannot make this statement that no, computer cannot do it. Yes, you can at most say it might be very difficult, it might be almost impossible, but it is surely impossible that you cannot say. With that, I will finish my talk, because we also want to listen to Swamiji. So Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Hari Om Tat Sat.
So we are extremely thankful to the short and sweet and exceptionally clearly spelled out. Among all the talks which we had, he clearly spelled out, and the human intelligence of Swami Sarvottamananda, I think, exceeds all the intelligences now. I thank him for that. So clearly understood what is the domain of this, what is the domain of that, what it can do and cannot do. So thank you for that. We're eagerly waiting for the closing address and the Ashirvachanam of Param Pujya Shankara Bharati Swamiji. So the mic is over to him. With that, we end today. And I thank every one of you attentively listened for 3 hours, except a few people here and there constantly browsing. That's the part of the human intelligence. You can't keep quiet without browsing the the mobile phone, although it may not be necessary, it's a kind of habit. You are sitting there for a long time and then said, so I have seen it all over the world, not only here. So you sit in the last bench and go on doing it. So that's part of the game, we have accepted it. For elders, we can't say anything. For the younger people, they constantly were poking them. Sorry for that, but you keep doing it outside. So with that, we end. So we will have a small packet of refreshments because you listen for 3 long hours to something extremely serious. So thank you for that. Now Param Pujya Swamiji.
सदा राम रामेति रामामृतं ते सदा राममानन्दनिःशन्दकन्दं पिबन्तं नमन्तं सुदन्तं हसन्तं हनुमन्तमन्तर्भजेतं नितान्तम् हरलीलावताराय शङ्कराय वरोजसे कैवल्यकरुणाकल्पतरवे गुरवे नमः। चैतन्यम् आधारीकृत्य अस्माभिः प्रातरारभ्य एतावत् पर्यन्तं प्रायः 7 विषयेषु विशेषरूपेण चर्चा कृता। अहं पुनरावर्तनं कर्तुं नेच्छामि। किं भविष्यत्काले वा अस्माभिः एतेन प्रकारेण चिन्तयितुं शक्यते। इदानीं या चर्चा संवृत्ता आधारः तत्र कोऽपि नास्ति सन्देहः। तेनैव सह यथा अस्माकम् उपनिषत्सु चिन्तनं कृतवन्तः तथा विज्ञानक्षेत्रे अपि अथवा गणितक्षेत्रे अथवा शरीरशास्त्रे सर्वत्र एतेन प्रकारेण चैतन्यविषये वयं चिन्तयितुं शक्नुमः किम् इति मम तु कदाचित् विचारः मनसि भवति। अहम् उदाहरणार्थं कथयामि। प्रायः भवन्तः सर्वे जानन्ति एव, बृहदारण्यके 3 अध्याये एकं सहजम् उदाहरणम् अतिसरलम् उशस्तब्राह्मण प्रकरणे भवति। उशस्तः शिष्यः, याज्ञवल्क्यः गुरुः। उशस्तः साक्षात् पृच्छति याज्ञवल्क्यं, भवता यदुक्तम् आत्मनः विषये चैतन्यविषये मां दर्शयतु। कथं दर्शनीयम् इत्युक्ते यथा एका गौः भवति, गां स्पृष्ट्वा इयं गौः इति वयं कथयामः खलु, तथैव चैतन्यविषये मां दर्शयतु, पर्याप्तं। शृङ्गं गृहीत्वा शृङ्गग्राहिकतया इति अत्यन्तं प्रसिद्धं। दर्शयतु इति सः पृच्छति। मन्त्रे तथैव अस्ति, भाष्येपि तथैव अस्ति, किन्तु उत्तरं याज्ञवल्क्येन नैव शक्यते इति उक्तं। तद्विषये भाष्यकाराः तत्र संवादं कुर्वन्ति अमोघं। किमर्थं नैव शक्यते इति विषये विश्लेषणं कृत्वा याज्ञवल्क्यस्य अभिप्रायं भाष्यकाराः तत्र कथयन्ति। अहं विवरणं वक्तुं न गच्छामि, यतोहि समयस्य सीमा अस्ति इति कारणतः। किन्तु एतानि उदाहरणानि यदि अस्माकं पुरतः भवन्ति चैतन्यविषये अन्येषां वस्तूनां विषये, यथा उपनिषत्सु विभागः कृतः, चैतन्यस्य लक्षणं प्रथमं वदन्ति उपनिषत्सु। सत्यं ज्ञानम् अनन्तं ब्रह्म भवतु, अथवा सच्चित् आनन्दः भवतु, आनन्दः भवतु, आनन्दो ब्रह्मेति व्यजानात् इत्यादि विषयेषु इत्यादि सन्दर्भेषु प्रज्ञानं ब्रह्म। एवमेव लक्षणम् उक्त्वा तद् विहाय तद्भिन्नं तस्य लक्षणं किम् इत्यपि च वदन्ति। तस्य जडशब्देन निर्वचनं कृतवन्तः। अतः नामरूपद्वारा अस्माभिः यदनुभूयते प्रपञ्चः, तद्विषये निर्णयः प्रपञ्चे यत्किमपि भवतु तत्सर्वं जडकोष्ठे जडविभागे एव प्रविशति। कारणं सर्वं तत्र विवरणं दत्तं। तद्विहाय भिन्नं तु चैतन्यं। तत्र कथम् अस्माभिः ज्ञातव्यम् इति विषये चर्चा कृता, महती चर्चा कृता, प्रयोगाः दर्शिताः। तद्वारा अन्ततो गत्वा अयमेक एव मार्गः इति मार्गस्य विषयेपि निश्चयः कृतः वयं जानीमः। कः मार्गः? नेति नेति इति मार्गः। तद्विहाय अन्यः कोऽपि मार्गः नास्ति यतः यतो वाचो निवर्तन्ते अप्राप्य मनसा सह इदमेव वाक्यम् अयमेव मन्त्रः इति कारणतः अतिसरलतया उपनिषत्सु नेतिमार्गः कः इत्यपि च दर्शितः श्रीशङ्करभगवत्पादाः तमेव मार्गं स्व उपदेशेष्वपि भाष्ये तु अतिस्पष्टतया उक्तवन्तः सरलेषु उपदेशेषु अपि उदाहरणार्थं दशश्लोकी अस्ति दशश्लोक्यां किं कथयन्ति भगवत्पादः आरम्भेव न भूमिर्न तेजो न तोयं न वायुः न खं वा नेन्द्रियम् एतानि सर्वाणि न केवलं तेषां समूहः शरीरादिकं पञ्चभूतैः निर्मीयते शरीरं एतत् सर्वं चेतनं भवितुं नार्हति कारणं किम् अनैकान्तिकत्वात् अस्माकम् एतद् अत्यन्तं मुख्यं विज्ञानम् आधुनिकविज्ञानं मनसि स्वीकृत्य यदा चिन्तनं कुर्मः अत्र उपनिषत्सु उक्तं यदस्ति उक्तः हेतुः अस्ति भगवत्पादः अनैकान्तिकत्वात् एते सर्वे स्थिरतया कदापि न दृश्यन्ते कस्यापि अनुभवे नास्ति चैतन्यं तु सदा सर्वदा स्थिरमेव भवति अतः एतत् सर्वं चैतन्यं भवितुं नार्हति तर्हि किमस्ति प्रपञ्चे किमपि नास्ति केवलं शून्यमेव इति चेत् तदा कथयन्ति भगवत्पादाः सुषुप्त्यैकसिद्धः तथा वक्तुं न शक्यते सुषुप्तौ चैतन्यम् अस्ति इति अस्माभिः सर्वैः ज्ञायते तस्य उदाहरणस्य विवरणस्य आवश्यकता नास्ति अनन्तरं कथयन्ति तदेको वशिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम् एवं चैतन्यस्य अवगमने सौलभ्यं भगवत्पादाः उपनिषत्सु यानि उदाहरणानि उक्तानि तानि सर्वाणि स्वीकृत्य केवलं 10 श्लोकेषु भगवत्पादैः उपदेशः कृतः किं ज्योतिस्तोभानुमान् एकस्मिन् श्लोकेपि उक्तवन्तः एवं सर्वत्र अस्माभिः वयं द्रष्टुं शक्नुमः अस्माकम् इदानीम् आवश्यकं वर्तमानकाले भविष्यत्काले च इदानीं यथा कम्प्यूटर् विषये इत्यादि अस्माभिः चर्चा कृता खलु स्वामिभिः बहु सम्यक् उक्तं तद् पुनः स्वामिनः आत्मप्रियानन्दाः अपि तत् स्मारितवन्तः कम्प्यूटर् द्वारा किं कर्तुं शक्नुमः किं कर्तुं न शक्नुमः इति स्पष्टतया विभागं तैः दर्शितम् इति कारणतः अस्माभिः तदेव कम्प्यूटर् उपयुज्य तदेव AI उपयुज्य कथं चैतन्यपर्यन्तं गन्तुं शक्यते नेति मार्गमवलम्ब्य साधनं तु AI साधनं तु कम्प्यूटर् एवं भवितुम् अर्हति किम् इति अस्माभिः यदि चर्चा क्रियते समग्रस्य जगतः नूतनः विषयः दत्तः एव भवति इदानीं चैतन्यस्य अन्वेषणं कुर्वन्तः सन्ति विज्ञानिनः वयं जानीमः भिन्नमार्गेण कुर्वन्तः सन्ति इति कारणतः चैतन्यम् अस्ति नास्ति इति विषये सर्वदा भ्रमः विज्ञानिनां मनसि महत् संशोधनं तैः क्रियमाणम् अस्ति कृतमपि अस्ति अथापि चैतन्यविषये तदस्ति नास्ति इति वक्तुं महान् क्लेशः तदेव एतेन मार्गेण सैन्स् स्वीकृत्य तदङ्गीकृत्य यदि संशोधनं क्रियेत तदा अवश्यं चैतन्यम् अस्ति इति प्रतिपादयितुम् अवश्यं शक्नुमः तेन किं भवति वर्तमानकाले भविष्यत्काले ये भवन्ति जनाः युवानः विशिष्य ते अवश्यं सन्मार्गे गच्छन्ति तद् अत्यन्तं मुख्यं भगवत्पाद तैत्तिरीय उपनिषदि कथयन्ति खलु सन्तमेनं ततो विदुः इति यदा मन्त्रः भवति असन्नेव स भवति इति मन्त्रस्य आरम्भः तदा भगवत्पादः स्पष्टं कथयन्ति किमर्थम् उपनिषत् एवं कथयति इत्युक्ते यः सत्पदार्थः अस्ति इति स्वीकरोति निश्चिनोति तदा अवश्यं सः सन्मार्गे गच्छति सन्मार्गे यदा गच्छति अवश्यं सः आनन्दे तिष्ठति जन्मनः सार्थक्यम् अनुभवति नास्ति तत्र सन्देहः इति उपनिषदां प्रयत्नः इति भगवत्पादः अतः विज्ञानं स्वीकृत्य अस्माभिः अस्माकं युवकाः विद्यार्थिनः अथवा बालकाः सर्वे चैतन्यम् अस्ति इति विषये विज्ञानमपि एवं कथयति इति तेषां मनसि यदा दृढः विचारः भवति, दृढा भावना भवति, तदा अवश्यं सर्वे सहजरूपेण तद् ज्ञातुं किं करणीयमिति पृच्छन्ति, पश्यन्तु। तदा अस्माभिः वक्तुं शक्यते अयं मार्गः सन्मार्गः एव समीचीनः। तदा वयम् आनन्दे स्थातुं शक्नुमः। चैतन्यम् आनन्दं सर्वं समानं, केवलं भिन्नं भिन्नं पदम्। यदि अस्माकं सदा एतादृश सेमिनार्, गोष्ठी, सभाः, वादः, चर्चा इत्यादि द्वारा अतिशीघ्रं यदि अस्मिन् विषये वयम् एकम् अभिप्रायं प्राप्तुं शक्नुमः, तदा वर्तमानकालस्य भविष्यत्कालस्य समाजस्य महते उपयोगाय इत्यत्र न सन्देहः। तद्विषये अद्यतनगोष्ठी मम तु अत्यन्तं सन्तोषं जनितवती। कारणं भिन्नभिन्नप्रकारेण युवकाः स्वामिनः अपि अत्र उपस्थापितवन्तः। ये विषये मध्ये मध्ये आत्मप्रियानन्दः अस्माकं स्पष्टं भवति इति कारणतः स्वप्रश्नान् उत्थाप्य तद्वारा उत्तरं वाचयितुं प्रयत्नं कृतवन्तः। स्वामिनः अत्यन्तं शान्तरूपेण कंप्यूटर् विषये पूर्णं चित्रं दत्तवन्तः। तस्य महत्त्वमपि उक्तवन्तः, तस्य सीमा कुत्र इत्यपि दर्शितवन्तः। एतद् अत्यन्तम् आवश्यकं। तदद्य गोष्ठ्याम् अहं दृष्टवान्। अतः अद्यतनगोष्ठी मम तु अत्यन्तं सन्तोषं जनितवती इत्यत्र नास्ति सन्देहः। अहं तु प्रवासे अस्मि, शाङ्करज्योतिप्रकाशः इति कार्यं स्वीकृत्य। तन्मध्ये अत्र आगमनं तु अस्ति एव, अत्र सन्देहः एव नास्ति। तदा आत्मप्रियानन्दाः तेषां मम विषये अत्यन्तम् अभिमानः। कारणं किमित्युक्ते एकमेव कारणम्, अयं स्वामी भगवत्पादानां विषयं स्वीकृत्य इतस्ततः अटति, स्वकार्यं तत्र कुर्वन् भवति इति तेषां विषये महान् अभिमानः बहुः कालात्। अतः ते यदा यदा अहम् अत्र कोल्कत्ता आगच्छामि अवश्यं स्वागतं, ततः आगच्छन्तु इति स्वागतमपि तैः व्याहृतम् इति कारणतः इदानीं द्वितीयवारम् अहम् अत्र आगत्य गोष्ठ्यां भागं वहन्नस्मि। ते तथैव अस्माकं वर्तमानकालीनाः कुलपतयः तेपि अद्य अत्र भागं ऊढवन्तः। अन्येपि स्वामिनः अत्र सन्ति। बेलूरुमठस्य ये प्रमुखाः अध्यक्षाः भवन्तु, कार्यदर्शिनः भवन्तु, सर्वे विशेषरूपेण एतद् आयोजनार्थं तथा मम वासार्थं, मम आराधनानिमित्तं सर्वस्य व्यवस्थाः विषये अति सम्यक्तया विचिन्त्य कृतवन्तः इति कारणतः अहं विशेषरूपेण सर्वेषां नारायणस्मरणानि अस्मिन् सन्दर्भे कथयामि। वेदान्तभारती विषयेपि स्वामिनां विशेष आदरः। कारणम् एतादृश्यः गोष्ठ्यः अयोध्यायां चित्रवारं वयम् आयोजितवन्तः। तस्मिन् सन्दर्भे स्वयं ते आगताः। तत्र एकं तैः वाक्यम् एवम् उक्तम्, इतः परं यत्र कुत्रापि एतादृशं भवतु, यदि शङ्करभारतीस्वामिनः आह्वानं यच्छन्ति अहम् अवश्यं तत्र आगच्छामि। देशस्य यत्र कुत्रापि कोणे भवतु अहं तत्र भागं वहामि। यतः शङ्करभगवत्पादानां विषये एवं विचारान् जनानां पुरतः उपस्थाप्यं चेत् मम तु अत्यन्तम् इष्टम् इति तैः उक्तमासीत्। तथैव इदानीं कुर्वन्तः अपि सन्ति इति कारणतः अहं विशेषरूपेण पुनः नारायणस्मरणानि कथयन् मम वाक्यानि समापयितुम् इच्छामि। तद्दृष्ट्या चिद्रूपमिति वयम् एकं कार्यम् आरब्धवन्तः। चैतन्यविषये एव सैन्स् इत्यादिकं स्वीकृत्य तद्विषये विवरणं सर्वम् अस्माकं ट्रस्टी मध्ये एकः डॉक्टर रविशङ्कर्, अपरः ट्रस्टी अस्ति श्रीमान् राजेश कृष्णस्वामी महोदयः। ते अनन्तरं भवद्भिः सह वार्तालापं कुर्वन्ति, स्वामिभिः सह अपि वार्तालापं कुर्वन्ति। अत्र ये इदानीं युवानः सन्ति, विज्ञानिनः, तेषामपि सहकारः अत्यन्तम् अपेक्षितः अस्ति इति प्रकटयित्वा अत्र सन्ति। सत्यं सत्यम्। अतः सर्वेषां सहकारः अपेक्षितः इति एतावदुक्त्वा अहं मम वाक्यानि समापयामि। हर नमः पार्वतीपतये, हर हर महादेव। सीताकान्तस्मरणं जय जय राम।
भगवत्पादैः उक्तं कठोपनिषद् भाष्ये मातृपुत्रसहस्रेभ्यो परमदैषा वेदेन उपदिष्टम् उपेक्षितव्यम् इति श्रुतिरनुकम्पया आह मातृवत्. So his main intention is awaken the consciousness of people, Sanmarga, and by realizing the Sat Padartha. So the whole thing was conceived by our Mahapujya Shankara Bharati Swamiji. He said, can you arrange a seminar on this? Hardly we have 2 days, but we have so many experts among brahmacharis, etc. We could quickly pick it up. We are so blessed that you could be present here and give Ashirvachana. And we also have a center, it's called Chatak. Chatak is Chaitanya Tattva Anusandhana Kendra. Chatak. So we are doing a lot of research in consciousness from the point of neuroscience, from the point of physics and computer science, etc. We are also in MOU with Nimhans in Bangalore. They are also doing some research there. But apart from gadgets and all that, we should deeply go into the philosophical and the psychological aspects, not neglecting yoga also, yoga and tantra. Vedanta, yoga, tantra, the 3 great systems which developed in India, now they are all overlapping. Swami Vivekananda wanted these should be projected, taught, studied in the modern light of science. Otherwise they will be not takers. So a small attempt we are making, and Swamiji is coming again and again, punah agamya, ashirvachanam, ashirvad dadatu iti prarthaye. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.